Good evening. And welcome to the Thursday, City of West Covina's Thursday night special meeting from August the 2nd. First of all, we have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilman Toma. Would everybody please rise?
Everyone please stand, face the flag. Put your right hand over your heart and begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. We have roll call, please.
Councilman Spence. Councilmember Toma.
Here.
Councilmember Warshaw.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Wu.
Here.
Mayor Johnson.
Here. Before we start our meeting, there's an adjournment motion I would like to make. Tonight, I would like to adjourn the council meeting in honor of several firefighter personnel from throughout the state that have made their ultimate sacrifice while battling the growing California wildfires this past month. The California Fire heavy fire equipment operator Brandon Varney, who passed away battling the Ferguson fire near Yosemite. The Socorro and King Canyon National Parks Fire Captain Brian Hughes, who was killed in the line of duty while working on the Ferguson fire near Yosemite. City of Redlands Fire Department firefighter Jeremy Stoke, who passed away while battling the Carr fire located in Northern California. Our deepest condolences go out to their families and co-workers. As the 2018 California wildfires rage on, we also pray for the safe return of our own very own City of West Covina firefighters, that they are currently deployed on a strike team in Mendocino County Complex Fire in Northern California. City Clerk, will you please make those adjournment motions?
Will do.
Thank you. Okay, now we will have public comment. Oh, wait, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to report out that there was no reportable action taken in closed session. No, it's not your fault, Mr. Mayor. It didn't get on the agenda right.
Okay.
So, thank you.
City Manager, is there any changes to the agenda?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, there are some items we'll discuss as part of the budget, though.
Okay. Okay. At this time, we'll have public comment. Would City Clerk please do that for us, please?
Tonight's first speaker is Elsie Messman, followed by John Shoemaker.
Mayor, council, staff, and everyone here tonight and at home, my name is Elsie Messman. I said I would be back, and I'm keeping my word. Also, this meeting, is it supposed to be about the budget, or is all the other things included there too? Because the last time I thought we were going to have a budget meeting. And anyway, I have a problem with the proceeds from the Sunset Field going into the general fund. It's almost $1 million, and this money is to purchase more parkland. It's not for the staff to spend as they wish. I don't know why you are including it in the amount to balance the budget. We were taken on Shakespeare Park, and it's not going to happen again. My next problem is giving $100,000 to have someone look after the homeless situation, to monitor 270 people. If the county or state is going to give $50,000, that should be enough. We still want to give $100,000, and the assistant city manager said the other $50,000 can be taken from different funds. Really? If you can find $50,000 that easy, why don't you rehire some of the maintenance workers? This city is always willing to give people salaries around and over $100,000. I really don't think they're as smart as a lot of people out there in the audience tonight and that are working and not making that kind of money. Looks like there's a generation gap. This city needs to be more older generation residents speaking up and the council listening to them instead of the city manager. When you let 21 people in the maintenance department go, you are not helping the service the city needs. Loyalty goes two ways, from management to employee and from employee to management. And right now, I think it's a one-way street. Management mismanaged our money, and then they take it out on our employees, some of which have served the city for over 20 years. How many of you in management have been here 20 years? I think it seems like it's a little out of proportion. A good manager would give more than 10% to show that he's the leader, because the upper management is the ones that cause this problem in the first place. So let's see some accountability. And my last item, number 8, there's no transparency by having the city manager appoint a person to the position of the city clerk. There's reason why they are elected, to oversee our finances as a city without any pressure from the city manager. And I think that's a shame that you're trying to change it now. Thank you very much.
The next speaker is John Shoemaker, followed by Bill Robinson.
Good evening. I was looking at some of the budget numbers, and it appears that we've gone from a projected $10 million deficit to magically a $500,000 surplus. Unfortunately, I think the magic beans will wear out about January, February of next year when it comes to fruition that we're really spending a whole lot more. When you balance the general fund by using money like the $921,000 for parks, yes, the general fund may be closer to being balanced, but the general fund operating accounts are not. It's not revenue that's used for operations. It's not operating expenses. So you're still short in what is referred to in many cases as the structural deficit. You know, sometimes some of the cuts that are being made, people talk about the savings that we're going to have. I made a comment about talking about savings in the future is, what was it? I said, I'm driving in a mountainous road. I miss a turn and I fly off the side of the mountain. I know some people would love that to happen to me. But it has absolutely no impact that in 5 years, they're going to change that curb and put up a railing because I need something now, not in 5 years, not in 10 years, not in 20 years. With this, the other thing too, with this $500,000 surplus, why don't we bring back all the maintenance people? City staff said we're only saving $235,000. Well, let's cut that, let's take part of the $500,000 and save 21 jobs. You know, because the rest of it has to come from funds that are specifically designed for maintenance of the city. Because there's no way you get rid of 21 people and then claim you only saved $235,000. You know, if you were interested in the city, that's exactly what you would do, is bring these people back. We need people to maintain the city. As it is, it's not to the standard it should be. The other thing too, according to city staff's own comments, was that it would cost $100,000 or $88,000 or $80,000, whatever it was, a little bit more to fund the fire department at the highest level. Well, I understand there might be an opening in the city manager's office, so just don't fill it and we've covered that. So just in a couple seconds, based on your own numbers, 21 jobs have been saved and we have more firefighters on the streets helping the people. Those are the numbers that were supplied by your staff. That simple. Are you going to tell me they're wrong? So I think you'll be making that modification. You know, if you really are serious about the contention that you are concerned about the citizens. Because when you look at everything, look what gets cut. Maintenance people who help keep the city in order. Police who help keep the city in order. Firefighters who help keep the city in order. Community events that help bring the citizens together. You know, and then we're told, well, we don't have money for all that, but we have money to keep, you know, oh, $100,000 cut in senior staff salaries. Oh, that'll do nothing to eliminate the budget deficit. Then why are we eliminating $50,000 for the 4th of July? That does nothing also. You know, it's amazing how when it affects certain people, oh, that has no impact. When it affects how many thousands of people went to the 4th of July, it affects them. Oh, that's immaterial. That's a lot of money. Take some of my salary. Oh, no, that's no impact whatsoever. That shows you where people think. City Hall thinks the residents are there to serve them, not City Hall to serve the residents. You know, and we've seen their own emails where council, staff, residents were number 4. Number 4. I mean, it's absolutely insane to look at that. You have the perfect opportunity to save all these jobs and keep our city running in the proper direction. Let's see if you'll actually listen and do the right thing, which keeps all these people employed. Thank you.
Bill Robinson, followed by Jim Grivich.
Good evening, gentlemen. Bill Robinson, resident. I agree, no layoffs. Sadly, the city has been run for the convenience of city staff, not the residents, for years. For example, the 4-day work week. The idea never came from the community. Residents never demanded City Hall services at 7 a.m. Monday through Thursday. But if you live at the beach or Rancho Cucamonga, it's a good idea. The staff wanted this, and the council doesn't care about the residents. The council seems to be serving the staff. You know, why not, you know, think about the people that voted for you. Moreover, elections and elected city officers are West Covina's best defense against fraud, abuse, and corruption. Election safeguards must continue. There is no good reason to remove the balance, security, and safeguards residents now enjoy and that elections provide by electing a city treasurer and not allowing that position to be appointed by city manager. I mean, it's a no-brainer. These offices must remain independent of city staff, contrary to the opinion of the council, which you folks may demonstrate tonight. For example, an investigation should be launched on whether current city staff is abusing their city credit card privileges. 11 credit cards held by senior staff members. It has proved difficult to examine the actual specific expenses incurred by these accounts, tracked for verification and audit purposes. I recommend tonight that you implement a special fraud audit investigation to validate the propriety of the use of those 11 cards. So ensuring the city budget mess, which we're going to talk about tonight, is a separate issue and not somehow interleaved with this, with the senior credit card issues. And that these financial conditions are, we just have to see where we are before we go forward. Tax advocates who believe that residents should be given a choice to tax themselves to solve the city's budget woes are mistaken. The council could make this taxation decision tonight for free. Council often avoids the hard decisions, but ballot items, this one included, are expensive. Also, this is bound to fail. I noticed an FM3 estimate that perhaps 4 out of 10 residents, this is 2 years old. I mean, this is ridiculous. It's old. It's useless. But it's there in your agenda tonight. But as I said, ballot items are expensive. The Registrar Recorders has told me that it's going to cost, the two measures are going to cost $104,000 to place on the ballot. You guys can't afford $104,000. You got to prevent these layoffs. The 2016 survey results from FM3 are laughably ridiculous. My personal survey done this last week says that hoping the voters are going to vote for a tax increase, that's a fantasy. Proposed tax increases won't address the root problem, which is consistent over expenditures beyond revenue for many years. People are impatient with all levels of government who seek to counter their own fiscal laxity, demonstrated here with only one solution, a tax increase. I don't care if you send all the police and fire fighters all around the city walking precincts, the tax measure that you're going to put on the ballot, if you make a mistake tonight, it's not going to pass anyway.
I'm sorry, Bill. Your time's up.
Heck.
I know.
I get shut up just when I'm getting started.
Jim Grivich, followed by Miguel Rope.
I'm Jim Grivich. You've heard me talk before about the laying off the 20 employees so that the lowest paid employees, so that the highest paid employees can receive some more money. And I thought I should provide you some specific numbers to go along with that statement. The information that you're being given is from a website called Transparent California. Provides detailed information about how much money every employee in the city is making by position, by department. And now that information is actually available for 2 different years. These are calendar years, so they don't tie exactly to your budget, which is by fiscal year. But in any event, it shows for one department, since the fire department is on the agenda tonight, I decided to isolate that one for your interest. And it shows that the fire department not only make employees on the average make roughly $255,000 a year. I think by any stretch of anybody's imagination that means they're wealthy. A lot of the firemen don't realize how wealthy they are because they're going to receive almost half of that money in retirement when they're not working. That's probably the definition of an aristocrat, being paid substantial money for not working. The bottom line of all of this is that it looks as if we're laying off people to pay for somebody's wealth. And the second part of this that I would like to talk about is the citizens. According to SCAG, the average household income in this city is $69,000 a year. Yet we're going to put a tax on the ballot so that that money can go to subsidize these people that are making $250,000 a year. Again, we're taking the lowest paid people and taking money away from them so that the wealthiest people can have more money. That's wrong. 2 different situations mean coming to the same conclusion. The bottom line of all of this is on your agenda tonight. I believe you should support the last best and final offer that's on the table. I'm not sure I agree with every element in that, but that's the only thing you have to reduce that budget, and so I think you should do it. At least it would get a handle on the overtime and reduce it. $51,000 a year by any measure, that's average. $51,000 a year just in overtime is outrageous. However, the good news is I think the budget you have before you to adopt is decent. Again, I don't agree with every item that's in there, but I think you can work with the total number. And however, there's one very important element that isn't in what you're doing tonight. I think you need to direct the city manager to ensure that expenditures do not exceed that budget, because that's been, as has been stated already, the real problem all along in the city. It's not the budget, it's the expenditures. The city manager needs to be held accountable to that. And I think the city council has to do it specifically. The last thing has been mentioned, no layoffs. Councilman Toma asked for a solution to the no layoffs problem. A couple others, people have already mentioned things. I'm going to be very specific about a solution. There appears to be one line item in the budget that's outrageous. The County of Los Angeles has chosen to increase the animal control cost by a couple $100,000 a year. I think that's ridiculous. It's almost extortion. And I think you just should reject that contract, reject that line item in the budget, move the money to hire those folks back that you voted to lay off, the $200,000. Find somebody else to take care of the animals. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there could do it for the amount of money that was originally budgeted before the increase. So that's my recommendations for this evening. Thank you.
Michael Roof, followed by Jerry Patras.
Good evening, Council. Miguel Roof, 17-year employee. I am one of the 12 that is going to be staying, and it doesn't feel good, you know, knowing that I have all my brothers out here that are going to be getting laid off. 21 employees. I mean, Mr. Mayor, before you were even on council, elected, you had requests as a resident, and you had a sinkhole in front of your yard. I was one of the ones that went over there and took care of it. We didn't just put dirt on top of your grass. We pulled your grass back, put the dirt, compacted it, and then put the grass back on top. So it didn't look like anything was done. You know, I stand before you just trying to speak a little bit, you know, I'm not good at this. And I just would like for you guys to reconsider, you know, the layoffs. We had a meeting, and under Tony Wu's guidance, you know, he's asked for a 10% pay reduction. We were open to it, but we wanted everybody to be in on it. 10% from us is about $400 a month. That's going to be hard to make up, but, you know, we have to make sacrifices too, whether give up DirecTV, cell phone, whatever. You know, we have to take care of our kids, and $400 out of my pocket is going to be hard. But willing to do it for the 21 employees that are going to be laid off next month. So I would just like for you guys to reconsider it and find other ways to do it. If that means taking a 10% cut, as long as everybody else does it, we would be open to it. Thank you.
Jerry Patras, followed by Chris Miller.
Good evening. On items 4 and 7, I understand the city has a budget problem. It also has a spending problem. My concern is the manner in which the city has chosen to address these issues. I worked in education where we were expected to stay within budget allocations. During the past 2 years, I've learned a lot about city budget processes. In city government, the budget allocations at either the department level or the city level just don't seem to matter. Deficit spending is apparently the norm. It's acceptable. I've never seen budgets approached this way. In education, planning actually begins way before the budget process starts. Priorities are determined then, and when appropriate, union reps are consulted or conferred with before the budget process begins, not during the budget process, where there is no time to deal with issues. All employees, not just a chosen few, share the pain of lean budget times just as they share the benefits of the good budget times. No layoffs for just a few. Reductions in salary for all, I could support that. Over the past few years, I've had impromptu conversations with each council member. I appreciate the time you've given me and the dialogue we've had. There has been a constant view with 2 council members, we need more tax revenue. City managers told me the same on multiple occasions. When budgets are planned that way, all other options, and there are always other options, are just disregarded. They don't exist. They're ignored. I've never seen budget numbers go from deficit to inline to balanced the way West Covina's does. Education has special funds, special salaries, grants, where we charge salaries and other expenses other than that aren't being charged through our general ledger to help. The budget, though, doesn't just go from deficit to inline to balance the way West Covina does. These budget games erode confidence in the process. I don't trust it anymore. It doesn't matter if the budget allocation is based on student enrollment, because that's what education is on, or if it's on projected tax revenue the way cities are done. It is not unreasonable for taxpayers to expect all public agencies to stay within their budget allocation. Stop the budget games. Now the city is talking about a public safety tax measure on the November ballot. We're also talking about laying off employees. I'm not surprised. This is a game, and I believe the tax measure has been the goal all along. The changing of budget numbers, the layoff of maintenance employees while giving raises to some employees for some future savings has totally eroded my confidence in this process. And the budget numbers just keep changing. If your desired tax passes, will any of that new money be dedicated to public safety personnel pensions, the retired folks? Or are we going to do what other cities do? Hire a couple of, market it to the residents as public safety, hire a couple, and then down the road, give raises and come back for more taxes. This business of usual practice just results in tax expectations. Previous speakers are correct. The city manager must be held accountable for staying within the budget allocations. This has got to stop. My final thing is on the ballot measures changing the city's treasurer in the office. I actually agreed with doing that in the past. At one point I really did. The budget games have completely eroded my confidence in this city. I supported the sale of Sunset Field. I would never do that again. I regret that vote. I don't want to regret another vote. Some sort, no matter how little elected of oversight is necessary. I will be voting against that change, and I'm going to encourage everybody I know in the city to do the same. We've got to quit doing things this way. Thank you.
Chris Miller, followed by Rick Shield.
Chris Miller. You know, for a special meeting on budget, we sure have a lot of items. Also, the agenda came out last night, and I didn't get a chance to get all the sub-PDFs to see all the meat behind these titles. On number 1, the parking initiative. Let's not make West Covina a hellhole where we need to pay for parking and drive around to find a spot. I know in the last meeting or meeting before, there was talk of 1 parking space per place or 0.68. Why can't we just provide an appropriate amount of parking? If it means putting in lots or putting in structures, let's do that. Let's see. On the budget, I don't think it's right that maintenance workers are getting laid off. I think, like Jerry and others have spoke, and Mike, that per Mr. Wu, that everybody gets a 10% cut and basically balance the budget and keep them employed. At the same time, I like the fact that Lloyd Johnson brought up the retirement of Engine 3, cut out the overtime hours, and on vacant positions, let's either fill them with newly entered people at a much lower rate and control the costs, or close it out if we don't really need it, or if it's just a way of bringing in more overtime. As you know, Jim Grivett showed, it's not chump change in the overtime that we spend and what people are making. Let's see. And, you know, on the best and final, stick to it for public safety, or for fire. And then on the tax, you know, I'm against raising taxes because we haven't stopped the bleeding. We're still deficit spending. You know, the budget's not being adhered to, and the budget is voodoo magic. Last year we had a deficit, we had multiple meetings, and then miraculously at the last meeting, everything's in line. Here we go again. We're having a surplus that's projected, and it's a joke because when we looked at the budget this year, what was underfunded, it was still underfunded. So, that budget that said everything was hunky-dory wasn't true. It was a pie in the sky. And then finally, on city clerk and the treasurer, I believe it still should be a elected office. We need to keep it open. There's people in this room that are running for that office, and I fully support them. We need our checks and balances. We need someone overlooking what's going on, be able to get information for us in FOIA requests. Let's not close that channel and basically shut down transparency of the city. Because as it is, you've heard Jerry talk, she doesn't trust things going on. I'm sure others also don't trust, what's going on. I don't trust things anymore. It's amazing. I saw 3 years ago, I think it was, at a Coffee for a Cop, or through Transparent, or Nextdoor, about Engine 3. And it got me involved. And the more I get involved, the more I'm, frustrated at what's going on in this city. If I never went on Nextdoor, I wouldn't even know what half the stuff that's going on. I wouldn't even know. Thank you.
Rick Shield, followed by Karina Aguilar.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and Manager. Like I said, last week I was here about helping people here in the yard, the work we've done, and one of the things I heard discussed was the homeless, some type of $100,000 grant for a homeless advocate or whatever, somebody, I don't know. I'd like to know if they're going to leave the air-conditioned office and go and pick up the debris that these people leave behind, like all of them have done. Orange shirts like me have gone and picked it up and stored at city expense for a certain length of time. I mean, that's a state or a federal requirement, but who's going to do that if we're gone? Other thing was number 1, code amendment parking. Why do we need to study parking? We know what parking is. I'm not too familiar with what this is, but is this going to be some consultant that, hey, we might be able to keep another maintenance guy on the job who would be out cleaning the parking lot and picking up stuff. Another thing that I've done since I do work in the streets, on the traffic signals, these signs that it's commercial businesses putting these plastic signs up on our traffic signal poles, as well as Edison-owned poles and trees, and they're commercial. I'd like to know how we can get reimbursed to have those. I've taken them down, although it takes less than a minute to remove them. It just makes the place look bad. That if we can find out who it is, it's not like somebody's lost dog or whatever that I can feel sorry for that, but these business signs that are put up with, we'll buy your house, we sell house, we rent your house, invest this, fix your credit. I actually caught a guy putting one up on a pole. It's a black sign that says, "We fix your credit," or something like that. And I said, "Hey, you can't do that." He just said, walked away. And they're still back up. So I don't know if that's a code enforcement. I did contact the code enforcement division, and she said that, unless, you know, they physically see them or an officer sees them, not much I can do, but I did say something. So anyway, that's my concern, is things, just trying to, you know, help fellow yard workers here. Okay? Thank you for your time.
Our last speaker for the evening, Karina Aguilar.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, Chris, Mr. Freeland. I'm here. I'm a former employee of the West Covina Maintenance Department. I was there for almost 11 years. We're like family. My husband still works there, and a lot of my friends. And it's very sad to me that these guys are going to be laid off of their jobs. They do a lot in the city, as I'm sure not many of you are aware of. Many people have been there for 25, 30 years since they were young. Ricardo's been at City Hall for many years. He came to the maintenance yard because they terminated his position at City Hall. I just want to run off a list of some of the things that the maintenance guys do that a lot of people don't know. They clean up homeless encampments of the needles, the drugs that they find there, the feces, the dirty clothing, and sometimes they're attacked with knives and bottles and things like that. It's dangerous for them to also be driving around the city with these homeless people after they've taken their things. They pick up shopping carts that are left by the homeless. They pick up things on the streets and on the side of the road that are hazardous or an eyesore to members of the community, such as mattresses, refrigerators, furniture, oil, car parts, items that should be handled by code enforcement or other departments in the city, with no discretion or discipline to other people that have left those items there. Many of the apartment buildings leave their things, and these guys are there to pick them up. They repair potholes in the streets so residents' cars don't get damaged, and sometimes we have legal issues because of that, but these guys go on the street, and it's dangerous. Cars don't stop for them. When they have to block the street, cars don't stop for them. How many of these guys have almost been run over? And they have families that their families don't get benefits. Their wives don't get benefits when they retire, like some of the other departments do. If they're with only 12 people and there's a sewer issue, the time that it's going to take them to get to it and to fix it and to maintain it, it could cost the city hundreds of thousands of dollars. Are you willing to risk that? These guys go at 2 in the morning sometimes to fix those things. They pick up branches in the road. And if you guys are if you're gonna contract everything out, that could be very, very expensive, because they're gonna charge overtime to come out at 2 in the morning. More overtime than these guys are making right now for every little thing. When there's a signal out, if there's a tree branch down, anything, they're gonna charge you if it's not in the contract. One of my friends has worked there for 25 years. She's having knee surgery. She's the one who works at the parks and cleans all the restrooms of all the feces that people leave there. Whenever there's a flood and the underpasses, these guys are the ones that go and clean it out. They see dangerous things. Right now it's a dangerous job. And now there's only going to be 12 of them, so they're going to be working extra harder. Are you going to give them the overtime that the other departments get? It's a scary time. Thank you.
Okay, I guess that's the end of the last speaker. Mr. City Manager, do you have any comments you'd like to follow up with?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There are a few. If I can first have Ms. Bresciano respond to the homeless item as well as the animal care and control contract.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council, and staff and residents. The homeless coordinator was something that came up during the homeless plan discussion. It's never been something that I or any of our staff have requested of the council to approve in the general fund or any of our special funds. It's something that we as a city were requesting from Measure H funding that you as taxpayers voted on. As far as the animal control contract, we are looking at our options. Our contract with LA County Animal Control expires in June of 2019, and I can tell you that the fees that have gone up are out of our control. Every year they increase fees. This year it happens to be that they increased our impound fees by 36%, which went up about $60,000 just for that. So we are looking at our other options. Unfortunately, it's not something that we can just cancel out of the blue, as municipalities have a responsibility to provide rabies control, and so that's something that we have to do as a city.
All right, Mr. Mayor, if we can, I'll have have Rosalia respond to the comments regarding the city clerk, I guess the election costs that were brought up.
Mayor and City Council members, yes, it's correct about the amount given from the county. Right now, it's a rough estimate, and I mean a super rough estimate. The measures themselves cost between $8,000 to $9,000. That is true, as we have commented about that before. But as far as the overall cost of the actual election, we will not know that until the very December, January of next year. And that's all due because of the county at this point doesn't know how many jurisdictions are going to be involved with this specific election. There's special elections from other jurisdictions that come into play. The more jurisdictions, the lower the cost. But at the moment, I can't, and neither can the county give an estimate as to, or a true estimate as to how much this election will cost. On the county's website, they do have what's called an election billing calculator. We are able to put our information in there and come up with a rough estimate. However, unfortunately, the county has not changed us from being at large to districts. So that's another factor to take into place. So we will not be, like I said, we won't be getting a true cost until December, January of next year.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear what you actually said for the estimated cost for the measures. What is it again?
They're for $8,000 to $9,000, and I did $8,000 to $9,000. Yeah.
All right, thank you. In addition, there was a comment talking about, the elimination of the elected city clerk position would make it so that we don't gain completing public records requests or other items. That's not the case. The administrative staff takes care of that. The elected city clerk, I'm not even sure if we've seen that individual in the office since the election many times. No, okay. So the elected city clerk actually is not responsible to any of the day-to-day operations of the city clerk's office. There was a comment made about the use of Sunset Field funds, inappropriate use of those funds. That's incorrect. As folks will remember, what we did is the funds have been approved by the council to be put into a park acquisition fund. That fund can only be used to acquire new park space or to improve that new park space. So what happened, I believe a year and a half ago, the city acquired new park space that the city funds actually advanced, about $921,000 to purchase a property on Lark Ellen to expand Cameron Park. The funds are expected to be repaid this year from Queen of the Valley Hospital, and so we're saying that those monies coming back into the city will help offset some of our costs. But I think it's inappropriate to say that the funds have not been used. They have actually been used to their appropriate use. There was a comment regarding credit card expenses. That was a subject of the state audit that has, part of the recommendations were to put policies and procedures into place. Those are into place, and the auditors actually were just here, and I think it was a request of the audit committee to have a review of our credit card expenditures, and I can have Ms. Lancaster verify, but the auditors just completed their review, I think about 2 weeks ago, and there was no discrepancies or issues with credit card expenses for the city. And with that, Mr. Mayor, I think we can continue with the rest of your agenda and address any other items under the budget if you wish.
Is there any questions from the council? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to the consent calendar. Is there any items that the council wishes to pull off and talk about? I think we have 3 of them. No? No? 1, 2, 3, that's all it is.
Motion to approve consent calendar.
We have a motion. We have a second. Hold on. Hold on a second.
Well, I do think there were questions from the public about the parking amendments, and I know you didn't address that, but I think we should at least explain that that was because at the last meeting we were making corrections in the downtown plan that was done. There were issues with the parking and about equity between old and new business and that kind of stuff, and we're going to send it back to have them look at that, right? So it's not about restricting parking. So we have the downtown plan when the council approved it, I didn't vote for it. When the council approved it, had standards in it, and they need to go back and look at it, and they were trying to make it equitable, right? So it's not like some kind of new thing about charging for parking or anything like that. That's all.
Yeah, on the consent, I'm a no on number 1.
Is there any more discussion on it? Okay. Then we had a vote for motion for. We have a second on the motion. What?
Second.
Here we have a first and a second. We have a roll call, please.
Spence? Aye. Toma?
Aye, except for the one that I noted.
Warshaw?
Aye.
Wu?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye. Passes 4-1 with except the one by Councilman Toma. Okay, so now we'll move to item 4. Oh, no. Okay, we're done with that. All right, okay. Item 4 is department matters. Adoption. Number 4 is the adoption of the City of West Covina fiscal year 2018-2019 annual operating capital improvement program. Mr. City Manager, who will give our report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Both myself and Judy Lancaster will provide an update. Let me begin first and foremost with that this was an item that was discussed at your last special meeting last Thursday. City Council asked City staff to provide some additional information, which we will be presenting here shortly. So let me go ahead and first, let's go ahead and turn the PowerPoint on. We're already there. Good. There's been comments and there were some questions from the council just to verify many of the structural deficit changes that we're making here within the organization. Some folks have said that we're not making any structural changes to our organization. That is not the case. If you look at the proposed budget, and we have the details up on the screen behind me, is we're looking at over $6 million of structural changes in the organization. First, we have a reduction in police and fire overtime savings of approximately $1.3 million. That is coming from restructuring both the staffing model in the police department as well as the proposed staffing model in the fire department, which is on your agenda this evening. That is item number 2. The fire department deployment model saves approximately $1.6 million, not including the overtime savings mentioned above. We are eliminating 6 vacant police officer positions, the elimination of vacant non-sworn positions to the tune of $391,000, police department cuts, unfunding the forensic specialist position. What do we mean by unfund is that it's still going to be an authorized position moving forward. However, we are looking to keep that position should the department receive additional funding from other outside agencies that utilize our forensic service work, or if a grant is provided for those that program. Reduction of part-time staff, as well as we have a victim advocate that has been used special funds as well as general fund, and we are now using housing funds that the city has, because that victim advocate does also do work on behalf of the homeless population in the community. We're moving NPDES to the sewer fund to the tune of $275,000. Maintenance department's cuts of $143,000, and I'll mention there are some notes. That's just a projected on a prorated number. The actual savings from the restructuring of the maintenance department is approximately $1.5 million. That includes a total net general fund savings of $204,807 and special funds of over $880,000. In the chart you see, the amount is prorated based on when we believe that the implementation will take place. Cuts to materials and services throughout the organization to the tune of $221,000. Cuts to special events of $150,000. Reduction in community services part-time staff of $115,000. The closure of the Orangewood daycare program at a little over $78,000. And then new revenues, which again, those have not been adopted. Those are just been proposed to be discussed at your fee and charge at a later date of approximately $900,000. Should all these items be approved, we're generating a change in the deficit spending of the city by well over $6 million. Some additional questions that have been asked include a projection of sales tax numbers. Let me grab those. And property tax numbers, just to show folks some of the dilemma we're having. That is, the projected amount of sales tax for 17-18 is $16,033,000. Next year, we're projecting sales tax goes up to $16,525,000, so a difference of about $480,000. The sales tax numbers are generated from a company called HDL. They provide information for cities throughout California. They're seeing economic trends that, unfortunately, automobile sales are either flattening out or decreasing, which, of course, with us having an auto plaza, has been hurting us, as well as, the growth in internet sales as well. Property tax, we've been very fortunate that with the housing values in West Covina, that they've maintained their value. Projected this year, we're about $24,492,000 as far as property tax revenues. Next year, we're believing that may go up to at least another $500,000 or more, to about $25,056,000, and that's what has been projected in the budget this year. Some other items that have been brought up is there was some discussion previously by the City Council to change a sergeant position to a lieutenant position. We've had some discussions with the police chief as well as representatives from the police department, and we do not wish to move forward with that item at this time. So as part of your adopted budget, should the council adopt the budget this evening, we ask that you change the authorized positions and reduce one lieutenant position and add one sergeant position. With that, I think I provided an update, and both Judy and I are here to answer any questions you may have.
Councilman Warshall.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One of the things that all of the departments were instructed to do was basically to cut 10%. Have all of them done that, and who's cut more, if any?
I'll have Ms. Lancaster respond to that.
Most of the departments have met their 10% cut that was required of the city manager.
Are there any that haven't?
Yeah, the fire department was unable to do so, as well as our planning department.
And how close were each of those?
Planning department wasn't very close because actually their staffing, we aren't able to reduce the staffing because there's only a few individuals that work down there. With the fire department, with even proposed cuts here, I think we're still a few $100,000 that they did not meet of their 10%.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions? Councilman.
Well, I guess I have a question about the departments and the 10%. If the two that didn't meet it, are they going to meet it, or what's the idea behind working on that?
No, as we presented to you in the past, we made recommendations that the planning department was unable to do so, so we're not going to be able to do so in the fire department. Unfortunately, with 94% of the budget being personnel, the chief doesn't have any discretion over reductions further than what we're proposing tonight.
I have a question about a couple of the items that you presented here tonight, real quick. I know we've been talking about the budget for a long, long time. On the police and fire overtime savings, and this is where I think there's been some confusion, is that, you know, when positions were left vacant, we were still backfilling them through overtime. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And so the only way to, and I don't quite understand why we would go ahead and leave it vacant if we were going to backfill it. And so I don't understand why we were doing that, or why the council at the time had those positions vacant if we were going to go ahead and backfill it. I just don't understand why. What was the thought process behind that? I mean, can we not suspend those positions? Can we not do something if we're going to leave them vacant so that we don't have to provide the backfill for it?
Well, by changing the staffing model, you're not going to be backfilling moving forward. So that's part of the cuts.
I understand that. But in the last budget that was approved by the council, they left positions vacant. And so I'm not sure that, I don't think I was aware that we're going to be backfilling them through overtime. I don't know, what they thought. But so I'm just trying to figure out why, if we're going to have positions vacant, can you explain to me why we have to backfill those through overtime?
Okay, well, I can tell you how we're doing moving forward. We don't have vacant positions, but as far as last year, I can have Chief Taylor come down. I also think part of it was an attempt to do their managed savings last year. They were required to do a managed savings, I believe, of $1.5 million in public safety, and so this was an attempt for them to try and have those savings. But if I can have Chief Taylor come down, please.
I guess I don't understand how you get savings if you're going to go ahead and backfill it anyways. That's what I don't get.
Again, what's that? Yeah, PERS costs too. But I'll have Chief Taylor help respond.
Because it makes no sense.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. So the question being, we're backfilling the vacancies. So last year, as the city manager said when I came in, I was told there was a managed savings. So that was approximately $1.2 million. So we had vacant positions, and I was not able to hire because I was taking those managed savings based on the hiring. So we were underfunded in overtime along with the managed savings. We were able to cut enough money out of the budget to handle the overtime shortage, but not to hire additional police officers due to that managed savings.
Because I don't know, I mean, is that something that's written in our city policies or something like that? Because, I mean, in the future, I'd like to know that, because see, when I see a vacancy, I'm assuming no one's filling it, that there's no money going into it, that it's a zero. And I guess, I don't know how many vacant positions, if this were to pass tonight, there are in the different departments or in public safety, but I think we should have some kind of idea if we're going to backfill them, and if it's when we say they're going to be vacant. Because for me, vacant means zero. We're not filling it, it's not happening. But that wasn't the case, right? So I think that's one of the problems I think that we had in the last budget cycle. And this is really for you, Chief Taylor, but on the overtime issue, Mr. Freeline did talk to you about this. I think the council needs to have every month the numbers as an item in the agenda so everyone can see it, where we are on the overtime, what the budget is, where we're at. And I know I would like to see you make the department heads accountable for the overtime management. I mean, because that's what they're there for, they're to manage. And so if we have that every month in front of us, because that was a big part of the problem this year, the public can see it, we can see it, you can see it, the managers can see it, and hopefully we'll be all focused on it. So I don't know if that's going to be part of the plan or not, but that's something I'd like to see going forward, at least as a council member. I don't know if I have to do Mother May I or something like that, but I think that's something that we have to have at least once a month, an update on all those kinds of things. So, yeah. And then one other question on a different item up there. You have the savings, deficit changes, the closure of the Orangewood daycare. Now, we didn't close the Orangewood daycare because the school district needed that property back, right? So were we operating that daycare at a $78,000 deficit?
No, so actually Orangewood was actually a profitable daycare. So what we did was we actually, when we looked at modifying the budget for 18-19, we took money that was at what we basically swapped our West Cove and our Orangewood budgets, because now we're going to merge the Orangewood daycare enrollment with West Cove, where West Cove was an underperforming site. Orangewood is now combining with that, and so our hope is that the enrollment will increase, and together the two schools, having students from both, will have a bigger impact. But it was definitely a loss for us.
So is that, well, so, okay, we're talking about the structural deficit changes, right? So is this $78,000 worth of savings, or is this $78,000 of income, or what is that? Right? Am I reading that wrong? That somehow we're up $78,000, so it either has to be
No, that's the correct number.
Okay, so is that revenue or is that cuts? What is that?
Was that staff cost for Orangewood?
But there was revenue associated with that too, so that's what I mean. I'm trying to figure out the net. In theory, yeah. I'm just trying to figure out exactly what that number means, how we got to that net. If that was one of our profitable ones.
No, if you're asking how we got to it, it was a combination when we looked at the revenues and expenditures, so it's overall an expenditure adjustment.
A savings of 78,000.
Right, a $78,000 reduction in expenses.
Okay.
Is there any more questions? Do we have a motion for item number 4 then? City Manager.
Mr. Mayor, I failed to address a couple other items. My apologies. Item number 2, the recommendation, should the council move forward, was to adopt a couple of different policy changes. And so if you turn to page 10 and 11 of the staff report, the council currently has a policy that if there's any surplus funds from the previous year, that those funds go 25% to the general fund reserves, 50% to the city's capital projects, and 25% goes down to pay the OPEB liability of the city. While we think all those priorities are important, due to the current budget situation and the anticipation of a deficit again next year, we're recommending that at this time, any surplus from fiscal year 17-18, when we close those books, go into the general fund balance. In addition, we have the Housing Preservation Loan Program, which is fully funded by housing funds. When folks' loans become due, they make a payment back to the city for those housing funds. And so we're recommending that those funds go back into the program itself and not into the housing fund balance. So this helps make the program self-sustaining a little bit more so.
Can I open up for council comments if they have any comments on? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, well, why would we, when this policy was adopted on where the reserve money goes, that was a separate item, that the council discussed and decided to put those percentages on it. Why wouldn't we have a separate discussion on that, of changing that policy rather than do it through the budget process?
Because we can, but it's part of the budget, so it's up to the council if they wish to address it separately, and we can bring it back at a later date, or you can take the action now.
I mean, because that is one of the problems I've been having with the budget. I know people say I always vote no, and that's not true. I voted for the budget in 2014 and 2015. I haven't voted for the last two. And I'm not going to vote for this tonight. And one of the reasons is because we adopt all kinds of policies, all geared around trying to get more money or to do things with money without having an appropriate discussion about whether that policy is good or bad or how it operates. And I do think, what you just mentioned, this particular policy, it was adopted separately. All these policies are usually adopted separately. We should have a separate discussion so we can view it on the merits rather than kind of having it jammed into the whole budget process, which this time took much longer than in the past. But I think we can't have a good evaluation of the policies and their impacts and whether or not they're warranted if it's all done as part of the budget process, especially when the goal for some of them, in my view, is to simply get revenue. And because when I ran for city council, I didn't run to be a revenuer, and that's what sometimes I think we've turned into, revenuers. Oh, this will give us more revenue. This will give us more revenue. We get all excited, and or some people do, and we don't have appropriate discussion about the policy ramifications or whether that's a good policy or not. Mm-hmm. And I've never had a recommendation from the city saying, oh, we should do this policy change, and it's not, it's going to reduce the amount of money the city gets. That's never happened. But I do think we need to separate a lot of this policy stuff in order to have appropriate discussions about it.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So are we going to discuss today, to adopt the budget, right? Is that including the change of, police model and including some of the cut that you got already, based on your number, you think is balanced? So,
that's correct.
Right? So in that way, I really have a hard time still. Because last Thursday, I was talking about my concern about what I'm talking about, a couple of issues. But nothing about the issue, from my point of view, has been addressed based on this budget. This budget is still going to what you like, not what I think, that will work, including we're talking about, the overtime, you change the model. I'm not worried about, now, reduce the service level, the people call the police, will reduce the time, the first respondent. So that's my concern. I understand with that, we can reduce the overtime, but my argument is my overtime should be replaced by new hire. And that you have more of the staff with 2 years from the LAPD, and I would interview them. I know how much they pay to fill out our position to have a 10. That's only $800,000, and to reduce the $3 million potential overtime, or you reduce the staff, then end up possible. We will have more overtime because the staff number shrink and the call number continue to grow. So that's why I say you need to think out of the box and have them to calculate with the new hire. And another thing is this: our police departments have a lot of people is going to retire, quite a lot. Because that's 350, right? So meaning 50 years they retire. So where is the new people? So we need to think about future. From this budget, I didn't see potential future. Planning. I say 6 months, 1 year, 5 years, 10 years. The planning for our department, for our fire department, the most important for our public safety. Where is the plan? I don't see from this budget. This is still the same thing to get a number fixed into what we think is right. And second thing, we talk about consultant fee, consultant costs. I didn't see anything talking about potential. We are going to cut major, we will freeze any consultant unless this is paid by the grant. Otherwise, no any general fund will pay a dime to consultant. Let our staff work on those things. Hire the intern, have them to go into Google, find the thing. A lot of things we can do it ourselves. We don't have to go to spend $500,000, $300,000, $250,000 to see how the computer line have to do. We hire the people. We're going to pay those computer thing, have those computer, the vendor to do the free survey. I hire my company thing. They do a free survey, how much I purchase for thing. They including the service. We don't have to hire a consultant to do, we need a computer, this and that. I think it's a waste of money. So a lot of these things we can save. And another thing, regarding attorney. Attorney is most important, defend us, to give us the right advice. So the thing is, if the advice is not there, we have a lot of potential settlement we don't have to settle. So a lot of things we have to throw out the window with taxpayers' money. We don't have less saving. That's a couple $1 million too. So all these things, I don't see anything from this budget to fix this leak. So I still cannot approve this budget.
Mr. Mayor. Yes. So first of all, let's talk about the overtime. Mr. Wu, you said you had a plan. I've still never seen it. Staff has shown you the cost of hiring new people as opposed to the others. You haven't shown me any dollars and cents that make a difference. So you're wrong on that. Number two, why are fire department overtime? Why is it higher? Because 3 of this council voted to hire more, keep a higher staff level, which caused more overtime this last year. That's why a lot of our fire department cost us more. We talk about eliminating 6 vacant police officer positions. In this case, I agree with Mr. Spence. I asked that we stop this policy of keeping on people to help pay for overtime. It's wrong. You can't fix the problem that way, so actually eliminating positions make a difference. Would I like more police and fire? Sure I would. Can we afford it? No, we can't. When we take a look at maintenance, I would love to be able to keep those people on. But when I look at the savings by going outside, and you look at both the general fund and the special funds that have paid these people, it's actually costing us less and getting more service by consulting it out. It's funny. We talk about, well, just have everyone take a 10% cut. How long have we been working with the unions for contracts, and how many have we settled with?
We currently have contracts outstanding with Fire Association and POA. Those two. And fire management and non-sworn units.
And how many of the unions have agreed to a 10% or more cut in salaries?
None of them have agreed. Others have asked for additional information or making sure it's conditional on the approval of other groups. We did hear back that three or four groups said no, they would not entertain a 10% cut at this time.
So to say that we haven't been working on this before the budget is just wrong. When you take a look at the furloughs, how much would taking all people that are not public safety and doing a furlough, how much does it save us over 30 days? Excuse me, 1 week is equal to how much?
1 week is equivalent to 2% of pay or 40 hours, and that generates $200,000 savings, 135 which is to the general fund and 70,000 to special funds. And I think you asked for a month.
Right.
So it'd be $800,000 savings if we give everybody a month off without pay in the organization. It'd be $800,000. Excuse me, non-public safety, $820,000 with about $500,000 in general fund and $300,000 in special funds.
And how much does that cut out of benefits?
Nothing.
Exactly. So we've looked at all of these things, and it just doesn't work. I'm kind of surprised when I take a look at Mr. Grivich's numbers, because we have more than 61 and 64 sworn officers over these 2 years. But, you know, and I'm not saying these 64 are wrong. Or, excuse, oh, this is fire. It just says sworn employees. Okay. You know, I don't disagree with these figures. The only thing you would have to do to make sure they're exact is to take a look at the actual positions and make sure the positions in 61 and 64 were the same, or in 16 and 17 were the exact same. That's the only real way to tell. But if you look at where the big increase was, where was it? It was in benefits. 20%, $13,000 in benefits per employee. And that's where we're getting killed. We're getting killed in PERS. PERS has gone up every year for the last 4 years now, roughly between 1.1 and 1.6 million. And it's going to start going up about $2 million a year for the next 4 years or 5 years? 4 years. Where is that money going to come? You just can't cut expenses enough, because it's not, as we see, it's not going to come from sales tax, and it's not going to come from property tax. So where do you want it to come from? So it should be the people that decide how they want to do this, because so far nobody's come up with a plan. Do I like this budget? Not particularly. But are we spending more than we're bringing in sales and property tax? You bet. But where are you going to cut it? Look at our consulting costs and what's left. It's very, very little. Give me an idea of consulting. First of all, you don't hire interns to figure out technology. If anyone believes you can do that in a city government, you haven't really done any analysis or haven't worked with a technology company. So you can't do that. If you look at what people have complained about, and when I'm talking about the people, residents like you that are here tonight, plus that have been here all year, we've complained about transparency. Well, part of the transparency is we haven't had the right technology in the city to do a lot of these things. And that takes experience from different people and then come up with the best vendor to meet that at the lowest cost. So I don't have problems in spending some money there. We have cut out a lot of our consulting fees already this year, and I believe that's still coming forward. So I totally disagree with Councilman Wu that you haven't fixed my problem. Mr. Wu hasn't, or excuse me, Mayor Pro Tem Wu hasn't fixed the problem because he keeps giving me the same line. You can hire more and pay less, yet he has no factual data to prove that. He just says staff do it, and staff keeps showing him by the numbers that you can't do that.
Okay, let me rebuttal, okay, about your thing. So hopefully I can persuade you, okay? That's what we are different, okay? Our different background, okay? You work for people as an analysis. I'm a business owner. I run business. I run company. I run a decent-sized company. So running a city is no different like running a company. Okay, efficient and this and that. You cannot be say, oh, running a city is different than running a company because city is bureaucrat, okay? Bureaucrat, that has to be changed. You need to be efficient. Don't waste people's money. Because people, the staff, some of the staff don't care. This is taxpayer money. Anything go wrong, go to taxpayer money, okay, tax them, or go to mommy, go to the government. No, we have to find an efficient way. How much we have, we spend. You're talking about I don't have a plan. I've been saying so many times. I even interviewed the LAPD to 2 years on the job. I say, hey, can you come to work for us? Their starting pay is $60,000. Okay, including now the P1 after a year and a half, okay, and the P2 after 5 years, there's about $70,000. He said he works 6 days, okay, 1 day off, he's paid less than $80,000. So with that, how can we hire 10 of them to kind of a balance of our overtime? Our overtime budget basically come from what? Senior. The senior that pay maybe $100,000, $110,000. I can talk about 1.5 times. Okay, 1.5 times of $100,000 is much more expensive. And now a lot of, okay, they are senior, they're ready to retire. We absolutely need to have a new talent. We need to have our people to work in the city to understand our city. We still have to all this, already work 2-3 years for LPD. They have a 9,000. We can rob some of them, get 10, get 15. Okay, we can do that much cheaper than paying the overtime. Okay, and that's what I've been saying so many times. And we're talking about the city, okay, need consultant because we need this consultant because the city just want to waste the people's money. They use a consultant to say this is the right. Then we have to approve because consultants say this, consultants say that. Why not using the logic about this? Why we need a consultant to fix the bathroom, to install bathroom? Then now it's $600,000 instead of Oak. I think in the private sector maybe $15,000. Dig a freaking, okay, a sewer and put the already bathroom right over there. How difficult is that? Oh, no, we have to pay for prevailing wages. We have to go this union thing, we go this and that. Whoa, it's $600,000. We don't have money. How long we've been waiting for Shadow Oak to fit the bathroom over there? How many years? 10 years? Okay, been asking for a long time. We still cannot put a bathroom over there. They've been asking for a long, long time because all this issue we have, because we need this, we need that. So that's the problem we have. The bureaucracy continue and the waste of money. And when I have some new idea, then you say, oh, this is different because we have to stay in the same course. That's what different between you and me, between your background and my background. You have to think out of the box, think how to fix the issue, not just follow this number. I guarantee this number over here, next year, the number will be same. We get another $6 or $10 million deficit. Never change.
So,
yeah. Just on this issue of overtime, we showed the numbers previously in terms of overtime versus hiring persons. In a certain situation, maybe you can save a tiny bit of amount, but you can't hire your way out of a budget deficit. I mean, it's been shown, we've asked for the numbers, we've seen the numbers. You can't do it. You can't have the idea. And the way that you get, we just talked about eliminating these vacant officer positions, about backfilling, right? Backfilling these positions meant people worked overtime. Now, is that a waste? There were officers on patrol making overtime. I wouldn't call that a waste. Do we need to eliminate overtime to the extent we can, to the extent for the issues that were mentioned before, fatigue, et cetera, whatever? You don't want a patrol model that overly taxes people with overtime, but you're not going to fix a budget problem through hiring more officers. You're just not. Do we need new blood? Every agency needs new blood. Definitely. You want a good mix. You want a good mix of young, new people and veterans, because there is a lot to be said for experience, because a lot of stuff isn't written down, and you need people who know how things are done. You need to know, we spend a lot of time trying to figure out things that happened 8 years ago or 10 years ago because it's relevant to things that we do now. But if nobody's here from that time period, you do waste a lot of time trying to figure out what actually happened, 8 years ago or 10 years ago if nobody is in that position. And we've had a ton of turnover, finance director and other positions, et cetera. Ms. Lancaster, I'm not sure how many months she's been working here. She's a contracted person. Do you think an intern can do her job? No, it's no way. I mean, this budget actually has been more transparent and more detailed. We've had, 5 or 6 budget sessions now? I think, did any council in recent memory before, even including us or before, ever do that many sessions? I seriously doubt it. The information's very laid out. You can't just hire somebody off the street to do that. So do you want a blanket policy that you never contract out? No, that'd be ridiculous. It depends upon the situation. And just saying rhetorically that we should always do this or we should never do that, it doesn't work in reality. You have to do it based on the numbers, not on what sounds good or not what makes for good rhetoric. So just that on the overtime situation, we have seen the numbers. We've asked the numbers, seen the numbers. You cannot fix a budget deficit. You cannot fix a multi-million-dollar deficit by hiring more people. It's absurd. It's just common sense, as well as just technically doesn't make sense based on the numbers itself. So I just think it's important to make that point, because there's a running debate going back and forth here. And on the the maintenance, I do want to say that it was one of the hardest meetings I've ever had when the maintenance workers came and actually spoke. It was it's very difficult, and we have to make a lot of hard decisions up here, and this is just one of them. So just want to say that. I appreciate you guys coming out.
Mayor Pro Tem Wu, I would think by now we are not allowed to hire non-union people to do construction. I keep hearing from you, well, I can do it in business and do it for $15,000. I don't need union. Well, guess what? Here we do. It is not a choice.
Even to the union, I don't think it would cost $600,000. Okay, go have an open bid. Okay. I think we can hire 2 union people to put that thing over there. We can pay them 10 times. Still not going to cost $600,000 to put a small, tiny little bathroom in the Shadow Oak.
And how many bids did we have?
Ms. Persiano, you go ahead.
Maybe choose one company to bid.
Well, no, there's a couple reasons why that unit costs a lot of money. Actually, to begin with, it's actually a prefab unit. There were obviously some constraints because of the location, plumbing in the sewer and water lines from the street side and getting it to the location. There's a lot of factors. I'm not gonna bore the general public, but the bottom line is, sure, if we go back out to bid, it's possible that we get it cheaper. We were actually surprised at the quote that it came into. So having said that, we rebid it. We've talked about using the Measure A funding for it. We're hoping to get a lower cost.
It go to my profession. Okay, as building houses. Okay, I build my own home. I build houses. So that thing for you to put $600,000 for a bathroom, that's God forbid. For me, it's not going to pay that kind of money. It doesn't make any sense. Okay, so no matter how you justify about that issue, I really have a problem about this. Just a small sample about what's entire the city spending the money. Just this is a bathroom. Why it cost so much money? Nevertheless, a lot of our bid, I think it's all way too high. We need to control all this so-called the money, the contract going on. Make sure we get the best deal. Okay, otherwise this is not my money. This is taxpayer money. So you can use anything you want. And even you have the 3, the ones lower, I think they're still the highest.
Mr. City Manager, on the funding for the, talk about the restroom at Short Oak Park. Now, isn't that from park funds only, not from the general fund?
This year, we're budgeting that we're going to use Prop A? Measure A park funds this year.
Then how about the bathroom Cortez Park? How about bathroom, those bathroom people been asking for fix for a long time. So how about those using what kind of fund to fix it? They've been asking for what, how long, 10 years too?
Sure, as we spoke before about the CIP project, there is a CIP project to upgrade the restrooms at Cortez Park.
So they will be fixed, right?
That's what, yes, they'll be remodeled.
So this year, right, this year?
That's in the CIP budget being proposed tonight, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any more questions? Anything? Okay. Do we have a motion then?
Yeah, I'll move to approve the fiscal year 2018-19 proposed operating capital improvement budget through the resolution number 2018-104 as stated in the staff report.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a first and a second. We have a roll call, please.
Spence.
No.
Toma.
Aye.
Warshaw.
Aye.
Woo.
Nope.
Johnson.
Aye. Passes 3-2. Now we should move to item number 5. City Manager, what we...
Mr. Mayor, City Attorney, I want a clarification on item 2 of the recommendation. Did you want to do that as a separate vote, or is there separate direction, or is that part of the motion? We just want to make sure that that's clear. No, that we already included the lieutenant position down to sergeant. We're talking about the additional budget-related recommendations regarding the budget policy as far as any surplus this year. We want to bring that separately, or in addition is the replenishment of the home improvement program through funds as they're reimbursed.
I'd like to see those separate.
I would too. You have a consensus? Okay, let's bring it back. Okay. Now we're going to move to item.
Are we going to get the, I know I vote against, but are we going to get a monthly report on the overtime and we're going to get all that? Is that going to be something that we get, or do I need to have that agendized as a separate item, or what do I need to do? Well, I'd like to move then that the City Council regularly receive monthly a report on overtime and what's budgeted and where it's at, and I'd like you to consider making that part of the evaluation of all the managers, because we'll make it part of yours.
I would second that. Do we have a census on it? Do we have any objections to it?
Yeah, I don't think that you need it monthly. I would like to see it quarterly. I think we're spending too much staff time trying to do that monthly, and I think quarterly is fine.
Since
well, I think initially, I think we should do it monthly. You know, until we can always go back to quarterly after we're satisfied that things are going well.
Okay.
I support the monthly. I second it.
All right, let's just go ahead and just do a roll call on it. I know it's just to move forward.
Spence.
Aye.
Toma.
Aye.
Warshaw.
No.
Woo.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye, passes 4-1. Okay, now we'll move to agenda item number 5.
Mr. Mayor, we'll have Ms. Lancaster give you a brief report on what the GAN limit is.
That's all right. Well, the GAN limit is really a Proposition 4 that was voted by the voters, and this includes the articles that amount to appropriations that state or local governments can establish each year. It's the appropriations. So every year we are required to do calculations on the tax proceeds, and for the city of West Covina's tax proceeds are projected at $47,042,520, but the appropriation limit is $182,766,000, so you are well below the appropriations limit. Concludes staff report.
Yeah, thank you for the staff report. When I was reading it, and this might be interesting to the public, I don't know, but it talks about Prop 111 in there, and Prop 111 was passed in 1990, and it was called the Traffic Congestion Relief Act, and you know what it was? 5 cents tax on gas, and then another cent for every year for 4 years, so total 9 that we've been paying all this time. And government did a great job relieving traffic with that gas tax, and they did such a great job, that they did another one. And so, if you think that, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, it's approving gas taxes and thinking you're going to get traffic relief. Anyways, this is my commentary.
Is there any more comments? Okay, do we have a motion?
I move to approve.
We have a motion. We have a second? I'll second. Okay, we have a first and a second. Have roll call?
Spence? Toma?
Aye.
Warshaw?
Aye.
Wu?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye. Passes 5-0. Now we're moving into item number 6, which is the reconsideration and implement of the city's last and best and final offer to the West Covina Firefighters Association.
Mr. Mayor, if we can we ask for a 5-minute recess so the chief get the PowerPoint up and running, and if that's what...
Sure, I don't have a problem.
Do you want to do that now or after the break? It's up to the council.
Yeah, we might not have to if we don't get the vote.
Sure.
Okay, let's do the vote first. Okay. Let's have a vote on for the reconsider and implement of the city's last and best and final offer. Can we have a roll call, please?
A motion and a second, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do we have a motion? I'll make a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a first and second. Let's have a roll call, please.
Spence? Toma?
Aye.
Warshaw?
Aye.
Wu?
Nope.
Johnson?
Aye. Passes 3-2. Now we have a 5-minute recess so the chief can get his PowerPoint set up. Okay, we are back. It's 8:59. City Manager, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of City Council. Before we begin the next item, I do want to go off script for a second, and that is I want to publicly thank Judy Lancaster. Judy's hiding over in the corner now. She helped put together this year's budget, as well as a lot of things in finance the last few months.
So she's gone?
She is as of next week. So this is our last council meeting, so we want to thank her very much.
No consultant anymore? Oh my God.
We do have a new finance director, and she will be joining us on the 27th. Yes, yes. So we're very excited about that, and we want to thank Judy for her service. Well, that was real welcoming applause. Much better. All right. Thank you, Ms. Mayor, and for entertaining that. At this time, if I could, I'll go ahead and turn over to our fire chief, Larry Woodhorn, who's going to talk to you about the proposed fire deployment model that we wish to address this evening. Thank you.
There we go. Could be stronger than the other, smart. Good evening, Mayor Johnson, members of the City Council, city staff, and everybody in attendance. My name is Larry Woodhorn. I'm the fire chief of the West Covina Fire Department. Today I'm presenting a status update of the West Covina Fire Department. However, before I begin my presentation, I want to take this opportunity to address all of our residents. Unfortunately, there are several rumors and misinformation circulating around our community regarding our fire department. I'm here to tell you today, as your fire chief, no fire station is closing. I want to repeat that again. There is no fire station in the city of West Covina that will be closing. All fire stations will have water in their districts, in which we'll have first line apparatuses available to store and pump water and put out fires. There will be no layoff of any existing firefighters. In fact, we're going to have to hire additional firefighters. And with that being said, there will be a significant reduction in our overtime. So we'll go to the next. So what is the mission of the West Covina Fire Department? It is to provide the highest level of property and life safety in a care and cost-effective manner, and to continually strive to provide quality customer service to our community, the city, and to one another. Your West Covina Fire Department is a full-service fire department that responds to all 911 calls and provides emergency responses to medical, fire, rescue, and hazardous material emergencies from the 5 fire stations listed behind me, with the current daily staffing of 25 personnel. As your fire chief, I have many roles and responsibilities, and I take each of them very seriously. I have to make many decisions. Some of them are very easy and routine and are extremely popular. Others are extremely difficult and extremely very unpopular. But due to the city's financial challenges, the West Covina Fire Department has been tasked with recommending a 10% reduction in their budget while keeping all 5 fire stations open, ensuring all fire districts are staffed with a frontline vehicle that can store and pump water to put out fires, and preventing all layoffs of West Covina Fire Department personnel. This is a monumental task and an undertaking, and I'll show you why. Go to the next slide. As you can see, for the fire department's budget, it is spent on 94% of it is spent on salaries and benefits. That's personnel costs. The other 6% of our budget is material and services. Of that 6%, 5% of it is non-discretionary expenses, which leaves us with 1% discretionary expenses. If I was to eliminate all of our material services, that would only equate to 6%, which falls very short of the 10% that's required, and it would be impossible. You have to have fuel, you have to have insurance, you have to have the paper clips and the pins and the pencils. So you're only left with personnel costs. We have to deploy our resources creatively. So let's move on to the next slide to show you the data and how we determine the best use of our resources. So what types of calls does the fire department respond to? We respond to all types of 911 incidents. However, as you can see from the breakdown from all the types of incidents we respond to in the past 3 fiscal years by categories. You want your attention to be highlighted in the categories that are in yellow. The EMS, as you can see on the left, stands for Emergency Medical Services. And as you can see, the majority of our 911 calls or incidents are EMS. These are the calls for service that require basic life support and advanced life support, which are transported by our rescue ambulances. Building fires, as you can see on top, also in red, are fires that happen to our residential homes, commercial buildings, apartments, condominiums, and townhomes. As you can see, those only account for 0.2% of our 911 incidents. The majority of our calls are emergency medical services and EMS related. All fire calls make up less than 2% of the total call volume. Next slide. The next slide illustrates the types of calls per fiscal year, again, a little differently. Again, the overwhelming majority of our 911 calls are EMS related. Next slide. So now, what type of fires does the fire department respond to? As you can see, they're broken down into different categories once again. This illustrates per fiscal year the different categories of the fires we respond to. As shown on the previous slide, all types of fires make up only 1 to 2% of the total 911 call volume per year. So what is being proposed? How do we determine the best use of our resources to meet our mandated 10% budget reduction? It's very clear that the overwhelming majority of our 911 calls are EMS related, over 70%. So eliminating a rescue ambulance would not be the best use of our resources and does not make up the 10% personnel cost that we have been tasked with. Responding to fires account for less than 2% of the total call volume per year. So, the best use of our resources to meet the mandated 10% reduction in our budget, keep all 5 fire districts open, prevent layoffs, keep all fire stations open, while keeping all of our rescue ambulances in service, is to reassign Quint 1 from Station 2 to Station 4. Now, you're all probably wondering what a quint and an engine is, and I apologize for that, but I will do my best to break it down in layman's terms, so I will go to the next slide and tell you what that is. So what is an engine? A fire engine is also known as a fire pumper. It is a fire apparatus that provides a fire pump, a water tank, and a fire hose. Now, our quint is a fire apparatus that serves dual purpose of an engine and our ladder truck. The name quint means to the 5, refer to the 5 functions that the quint provides. It also has a fire pump, a water tank, a fire hose, aerial device, and ground ladders. Let's go back, I'm sorry. In addition, the quint will be centrally located in the city at Fire Station 4 to better serve the community for all fire and vehicle extrication related incidents. The quint will have a 25% increase in the fire department personnel assigned to it as well. The next slide just illustrates what I talked about of the movement of the quint in the truck. So if you look, even though our daily staffing will decrease from 25 to 23, all 5 fire stations remain open and no existing personnel will be laid off. So as you look at the columns existing and proposed, we go from 5 engines to 4. We move the quint from Station 2 to Station 4, but we're increasing it by 25 personnel, making it 4 individuals on the quint. We maintain our rescues and our command vehicle. So this next slide shows all the cities that have quints. Regionally, the majority of the cities surrounding West Covina have deployed quints over the past several years. For example, the cities of Baldwin Park, City of Industry, Covina, El Monte, Laverne, Pomona, Rosemead, San Dimas, and Whittier. Currently deploy a quint as part of their deployment model. The trend is consistent with the fact that a quint is a multi-function purpose unit that allows for different options depending on the emergency. Now, what's noticed also on this slide was something that was brought up last time we presented it. You know, there's a lot of comments saying that the quint was generally housed with an engine company. Well, that is absolutely not true. As you can look, Covina, our neighbors just to the north, have a quint standalone in their station 153 that has no engine company or rescue ambulance within there. Pomona, just to the east of us, quint 187 is there all by itself with no fire engine. To the west of us, El Monte, station 166 is a standalone quint with no engine. And just to the southwest of us is Whittier, also with a quint with no engine assigned to that station. So now, as you can see here, what is constant staffing and how does it work? On the left, you'll see what we call our shift assignments. Our shifts are broken down to three, A, B, and C, and they're color coordinated, red, blue, and green. As you can see, we have 25 sworn positions, 25 personnel on duty every day, which currently we have 13 vacancies, which makes up about 17% of our total sworn positions. Constant staffing levels require all 75 positions to be filled. So let's take a look at A shift. That's actually the shift that's on duty today. If you look, all the vacancies are in red. So if you count them, you have 4 vacancies currently on A shift today. Those have to be filled before any individual takes a vacation day, sick day, family sick day, comp day. So if the proposed model was chosen, we'll be able to eliminate 9 of the vacancies and significantly reduce the overtime. We'll also have to hire additional firefighters, which will then reduce the further vacancies that we have. So, will eliminating Engine 4 and moving the quint to Station 4 increase response times? There are no evidence that support longer response times. Despite the 10% reduction in our budget, all fire stations will remain open and the closest apparatus will continue to be dispatched to the incident. Fire administration has begun and continues to introduce projects that will improve the availability of our West Covina Fire Department resources. Most recently, we have a backup ambulance agreement that's been completed. We have a backup ambulance agreement with not with 1, not with 2, but with 3 ambulance companies. And what that means is when all of our rescues are out and about on calls, we now rely on the privates to come in and help facilitate that. We're working on an automatic aid agreement that's awaiting signatures from Chief Osby from LA County Fire Department and myself, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in the next slide. We've already begun the meet and confer process for medical priority dispatch systems, the MPDS, also known as tier dispatching. And what that does is it will guide the city dispatchers through a set of standardized protocols to triage patients during a 911 call. Once implemented, this triage dispatch system will help determine the appropriate response mode, whether it be routine or lights and sirens, and the resources to be assigned on that incident. The fire station pre-alerting system is also in the works. It's a key component of the fire emergency medical service dispatching in fire station's alerting system. Once the information is required for the emergency response is gathered and the closest resources are determined, the fire station's audio and visual alerts are then activated. Replacing the existing fire station alerting system should improve response times from approximately 45 seconds to upward to 3 minutes. So will the decreased staffing put firefighters at risk because of decreased manpower at the fire scene? Though not optimal, the city's budget constraints require the West Covina Fire Department to decrease the daily staffing from 25 to 23 personnel on duty. Although daily staffing will be down to 23, we will continue to send the closest apparatuses, and they will continue to be dispatched to the incident. Now, I mentioned automatic aid. We have totally overhauled and revamped our automatic aid. In fact, we'll be meeting Monday with the chief officers in LA County Fire Department. And what that is, it's a reciprocal agreement between West Covina and the County of Los Angeles. We have an agreement to send the closest resources to predetermined locations for certain types of incidents. So what that means is, you want to go back to one of the map of the city real quick. So, if we were to have a fire in the north end of town, fire station district, and I think up there it's a pink color, okay? We continue to send 4 engines to report of a structure fire. We are not going to be sending engine 5. You can see how far down engine 5 is. Now we'll be getting this assistance from LA County Fire Department, whether it be coming from Covina 152 or Irwindale 48. So we've, in a sense, dropped down our borders, and we want to make sure the closest resources goes to the appropriate calls. And it'll be reciprocal. So if there's a fire in the city of Walnut, our Station 5 will be going to assist instead of them sending somebody from as far as Covina. So we go back to the, I'm sorry, is that 15? So now mutual aid. Okay, we have automatic aid, but what mutual aid is all fire departments in the state of California have agreed that when local resources are unable to mitigate an emergency, regional resources are deployed to a local area. So the mayor touched upon this earlier. Just look at the news. Look what's going on right now up and down the state of California. There are many fire departments that were overwhelmed. Okay? And this is where mutual aid comes from. And we ourselves in West Covina are up north assisting them. So we all have that resource available to the city of West Covina as well. Next slide. So summary of key points. It's important to remember that all 5 fire stations will remain open. All districts will be staffed by a frontline vehicle that can store and pump water to put out a fire. I mentioned again, no layoffs of existing West Covina Fire Department personnel, and we're currently in the process of hiring new personnel to fill vacancies that will help reduce the overtime. And at this time, I'll take any questions or comments that staff might have. Or council.
Is there any questions? Councilman Toma.
Thank you. Chief, how is this proposed model different from the model prior to the SAFER grant?
The difference is that currently right now, we'll go back with one of the pages. What page would that be? Page 11. Put the slide back up. So our existing, right now, we have 5 engines, okay, in our 5 fire stations. We should go.
I got this historic perspective with the SAFER grant as a call, or no?
You know, we can go back and do a historical perspective if you want, but will this slide be suffice to tell you what we?
That's actually not my question, because that's showing existing proposed. I assume existing is
you want to know before SAFER?
Yeah, because I remember there was a statement that this was better than the model before the SAFER grant. I don't know how that is, and just wanted to know if that was true. So that's
so
my
before
question.
the SAFER grant, okay. Do we have the slide? Okay, we'll pull. We actually have that slide. We'll pull it up for you.
Aren't we supposed to be talking about the reconsideration of the last best and final thing? Isn't that what we're supposed to?
It has nothing to do with anything about that.
I mean, this has been a good update on the fire stuff, but we're supposed to be talking about the reconsideration of the last best and final implementation, right?
He is describing that for the public what that last best and final is, and that's what this is.
Yeah, that's what I asked for, so you could explain what the model was. That's what we're voting on.
Because we were talking about tiered dispatch, and we were talking about all kinds of different things that aren't. No, but that's not part of the last best and final. But okay.
Is that good slide? Okay, so here's a slide that we did last time that shows the various states that the West Covina Fire Department has been in. The one I believe you're talking about, Councilman Toma, is that when prior to the SAFER grant, we had a truck company that, for all intents and purposes, was a toolbox on wheels It had aerial device, ground ladders, but it had no.
Russell, your head.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
But it had no capability to put out a fire. It had no water tank, it had no pump and no fire hose. And so in essence, District 4 was without water in that district. Now that we have purchased a Quint, it is a truck company. It's a state-of-the-art truck company. So it's a toolbox on wheels that has the addition of a water tank, fire pump, and hose. So, and effectively, the truck company we had before could roll up onto a vehicle fire and could not extinguish a vehicle fire. It could be first on scene to a room and content structure fire and could not pull out a hose for a quick attack. The Quint that we have now can do all and everything that a regular truck company can do, but additionally it has the hose, it has the water and a tank to in effect put out the vehicle fire, put out a room and content fire of a residential structure fire. And also, our truck company had 3 individuals at the time. Now, our Quint will be staffed with 4 by increasing it by 25% of the personnel.
Okay, is there any other questions? Okay, we already voted to move forward with it, so now we have another vote on if we accept it or what?
And I want to ask the city attorney, do we have any remedy if we impose this back? Since last time we already have, 3-2, okay, decline, and this now we have approved. So do we have any issue?
Well, I don't want to talk about personnel or litigation matters out here.
And that's what I'm worried about, the potential loss, okay? And we have to really be careful on this.
Yes, sir. Like I said, I don't feel comfortable discussing what you've talked about in closed session.
As it is, we voted 3-2 to move forward with last and final. And what for reconsider? Now we need to vote on. That was reconsidered. Now
adoption of the resolution.
Now we have to adopt it. So we have a motion I will make a motion to adopt the resolution.
I'll second.
Yes, you can.
Okay, I know I appreciate that you don't want to discuss about the litigation stuff out there, but do you know of any time that last best and final was not implemented, that it's been reconsidered by any entity?
Without, you mean just any time?
Yeah.
Because there have been, usually there are intervening negotiations. What occurred here is that the impasse was never resolved, and the fact-finding results didn't change anything.
Right, because I had no problem rejecting the fact-finding part of it, obviously.
All right.
You know, which was, I guess, what they're going to do in a little bit, put a tax on. But yeah, I was just wondering if, because I couldn't find anything where that's been done before. So, okay, thank you.
Any other questions? If not, we have a motion and a second. Let's have roll call.
Spence?
No.
Toma?
Aye.
Warshaw?
Aye.
Wu?
Nope.
Johnson?
Aye. Passes 3-2. And now we shall move to item number 7, which is a public safety special tax measure for the November 2018 ballot. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let me grab my report just a second. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. Item number 7 on tonight's agenda is a discussion about a public safety special tax measure for the November 2018 ballot. At your last city council meeting last week, there was a discussion about the potential to do a special sales tax for the November 2018 ballot. As staff, the city attorney's office would do an additional research. We found that at this time, unless 4 council members vote in the affirmative, we cannot move forward with the public safety sales tax portion. The reason for that is under the Revenue and Taxation Code, it talks about the difference between what's called the Bradley Burns Uniform Local Sales Tax, which is what the cities receive already, which is 1% of the sales tax here locally. You'll see in our neighboring cities, there are increasing, like Covina, I think they're doing 3/4 cent. Same as Pasadena and Glendale, they're doing what I believe is a transaction tax. So even though when we go shopping, there's no difference when you see those at the register, it is a difference when it comes to the Revenue and Taxation Code. So therefore, unless 4 affirmative votes, a sales tax measure cannot move forward. Knowing that, we just provided additional information should the City Council wish to move forward any of the other additional items. If so, again, if we are to move forward, it would require us to come back at a special meeting because we have until Friday, August 10th to submit something to the County of Los Angeles. With that, myself and City Attorney can answer whatever questions.
Is there any questions?
I don't know how to ask any question because from the beginning where we say it's a 4 vote, but you say it's 3, okay? And now we go back to 4 again. So why in the beginning we should know as attorney should tell us, okay? And should be 4 vote, okay? And back and forth, so we kind of even don't know what's going on, okay? I think this is the issue I'm talking about. Number 3, okay? Attorney advice. So we have to be careful on that. Okay, so potential city lost. Okay, so it must have to be as a trustworthy issue. Okay, I'm not trying to criticize you. I say this is something very important for us to have your advice. So we have your advice, so we listen, then we make a right decision. Okay, we don't want to make a wrong decision. We think it's the right decision, but because of advice from the person we trust. So as a city attorney, something very, very important position cannot, okay, and when we lose trust on that, and it becomes very difficult for we to make a decision, a right decision to have our residents benefit. So I don't know why, how can this happen, and how can we stop this happening again? Okay, we want to make sure, okay, we have to be credibility, okay? Everybody has that credibility and trustworthy if they do their job.
I absolutely agree with you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. I didn't adequately explain to you, I did tell you that we could not do a transaction and use tax without 4/5 vote. What I failed to adequately explain to you and to the public was that that's what we think of as this add-on sales tax. It's technically not a sales tax. The only sales tax that could be put on a ballot would have been the Bradley Burns, which I didn't know whether we had any room left in our Bradley Burns, but apparently we don't. No one does, and that's my fault for not verifying that. But the sales tax, Bradley Burns, is maxed out at the statutory level. So the only option for local use transaction tax, which everyone calls sales tax, and I should have made that clear that the transaction and use tax is not actually a sales tax. It's just called the local sales tax by everybody because it's not visibly separable. It's just a component of what everybody calls sales tax. Even the website of the BOE doesn't have City of West Covina listed as having a sales and use tax, but it does because it has the Bradley Burns. So it's a confusing thing, and you're correct. I did not correctly explain the difference. Okay. The other potential special taxes, as we've pointed out, any of those could be put on by 3 out of the 5 council members.
Can you explain?
I'm really,
what
I haven't finished mine yet, please. Okay, I haven't finished mine. Okay. So the thing is this. I'm kind of confused with your dancing around the language. Okay, so I'm kind of confused. So now you say because it's 3, 4, 3, 4. So conclusion is 4 or 3. Okay, so now you say potential we can do 3. So it's either 3 or 4. So can you give me a conclusion? How many votes we need? Okay.
For what everyone calls the local sales tax, you would have to have 4 votes. For all of the other options that are identified in the report, 3 votes is sufficient to place a special.
So what is the option? What is the option now? It's not the, so you change the name, it's not the tax, so it would become some kind of fee,
No,
so you only 3.
It's still a tax, it just would not be a sales tax. It would be one of the other forms that are identified. There are a number of other kinds of taxes that, including various kinds of excise taxes that local entities can adopt, including business license tax, utility users tax, which I know is not something that the council has indicated support for. There is a statutory special fire and police protection tax under the government code that you could enact, and that can be by either the whole city or smaller areas. Transient occupancy tax, which we think financially doesn't get you where you need to be in terms of budget needs. A payroll tax, which is a fairly rare but still available kind of tax, and then of course a parcel tax that can be done by either by parcel or by so much per square footage. And then finally there's also the option of a community facilities district, which does require a 2/3 vote of the voters, but most people think of a community facilities district as only allowing you to build actual structures, but fire and police services are among the kinds of services that you can actually fund with a community facilities district as well. You're welcome.
Can you explain to the audience what Bradley Burns is and what that limit is and how it got there?
Yes, sir, and I wish I had understood this better myself at the beginning. Unfortunately, it started before I was born. The Bradley Burns sales tax is a statutory state sales tax. And what the law provides is that in addition to the state established rate for sales tax, that local entities can impose up to 1 1/4% sales tax. Cities are limited to receiving 1% of that. The other 1/4% is for counties for transportation projects. Because this was passed a long time ago, actually, and basically every city went and adopted it. So the Bradley Burns cap of 1% to the city is already being collected, has already been imposed. So that's the difference. The transaction and use tax, which is authorized under a different part of the revenue code, is similar to a sales tax, but it's not identical. I think you pointed that out when you were talking about car sales, for example, at the last meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
So if there is no other discussion, do you have one?
Yeah, I do. So I was definitely in favor of a sales tax. And the reason why I was in favor of a sales tax is because it not only, do residents have to pay it? Sure they do. But also people that come into our city have to pay it. And I think between 40 and 50% of our sales in West Covina, because of our malls, come from people outside. So if they're coming into our city and using city services, which they are, they would be paying for this. Any other kind of tax is going to be paid by residents and businesses. And when it's paid by residents and businesses, the businesses are going to make up that tax, so residents actually can end up paying for that twice. And that's why I recommended a sales tax, to make up monies that we're going to need definitely in the future. There is no doubt in my mind that we can do cuts next year with what we already know, roughly what sales tax is going to be, what property tax is going to be, and we know right up front what our PERS and medical is going to be. But irresponsibly, some of this council doesn't want the people to decide whether we should do that. So with that, I think we need to look at other ways, and I'm not sure what to do with that.
Well, for the all the reasons that were previously mentioned, we talked about PERS before. I was looking again at the 2013, 2014 levels of PERS and what we are going to have to pay this year, and it comes out to, I think it's $21 million. $21 million difference that that we're having to make up through sales tax and property tax, and we know what the numbers for PERS and for other costs are going to be larger in the following year too, because we have the schedule in front of us. I think everyone here ran on saying that public safety was the #1 priority. I've talked before about how 80% of our budget is public safety. It's police and fire, police being the largest budget item and fire being the second. And someone said earlier on that if you do a tax for, someone said that well, why support a public safety tax? It's just going to be wasted. I would like to know what that waste is. You heard the fire department chief say 94% is on salaries for fire staff personnel, and most of the expense for police is for police officers, and that is what I ran on in terms of increasing the number of officers in the city, and I don't see any way we're going to do that. And I don't see any way we're not going to have further cuts without doing something different in the coming year. I mean, we've gone through this for months now, just on this budget alone. I haven't heard a magical plan to do this. These have been very tough budget cycle and have had to make a number of different cuts and decisions. And again, I go back to what Vallejo did when they filed for bankruptcy. One of the issues was staffing, and we just had an issue come up with staffing where it made complete sense with no one being laid off in terms of firefighters, water in every area, and necessary savings in terms of our budget, and you still only got 3 council members to vote for that. I don't understand that. I don't get that. I know things have become highly politicized, and people are making decisions now based on politics and not on what makes sense in the budget. But we really have to look at the numbers and look at what we can do realistically, and not just what sounds good in terms of rhetoric. I didn't come to this decision early. No one wants to, make a hasty decision. We've been here for a number of years now, and looking at the trends, seeing the numbers that are hard numbers, that are real numbers. I don't see how we can preserve our public safety without going to the voters and checking with them. I don't want to be the position later on where, in order to stave off some sort of, bankruptcy, fiscal crisis, we have to make massive cuts, and the voters come back and say, why didn't you even give us the option? Why didn't you even let us tell you what we think is important? Because everything that I've heard when I've been out there walking before is that public safety is the highest priority, and to not even let the voters tell us that, I can live with it if they say no, because that's a message to me. That's a message from the voters directly to me that what I thought was the case was not the case, that the voters are not willing to pay for our public safety, and I don't think that's the case. We actually have the only results that we have show that 2/3 of the voters actually said that they would support a sales tax increase for public safety. That's the closest thing that we have to understanding and knowing what the voters want, in addition to actually talking to voters, which we've done. And we know that public safety is a priority for our residents in West Covina. So I think this is the right thing to do. And I would put a motion to, I will make a motion to put a sales tax, a special sales tax on the ballot that's restricted for public safety.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, why every time we have a disagreement become election? Okay, it has nothing to do with the election. It's just how to run the city in a different ideology. Okay, no matter what, after November, I still have the 2 years. You may be here, maybe not here. I still have to face next year the same problem. So this is something, how to run the city with the right method. Okay, it has nothing to do with sound good or something. And I say that West Covina has a 5,000 business. Most of them are mom and pop business. You raise this 10.25 to them, allow them possibly out of business. You say, oh, people come from outside, come over your shop. No, maybe the shopping mall possible, but most of the business not in the shopping mall is all the places in West Covina. And this is what our local residents shop. We've been emphasized, even our dump truck put on the shop local for our children. We want to shop local for our children. Now you want to raise 10.25. People don't shop over here. And you talk about raise the sales tax. Not going to hurt our citizen, our resident. You're going to hurt them big time, especially the fixed income and the senior resident. Okay, they are fixed income, the senior citizen. They only have that kind of income. Now you're going to charge them more because the business for survival, they're going to impose this fee increase. And now their living become another issue. So how to do it is not raise tax. It's a bring business. Anytime you have business, most of the time you're against the business coming in. You say, oh, this and that, open space, this and that. Okay, then we continue to drag. Business over there waiting to give us some money. The planning department should be open the door, see, and make things faster, rather than stop everything because maybe it's not good enough. And then we continue to have this issue. Think about this. Let the business pay for our service. We have a 5,000 business, increase their sales. Everybody happy, win-win for everybody. Continue to think about raising taxes. Okay, fine, let's raise taxes. Tell me, how you going to use those money? What kind of plan? You must have a plan. Say, give me this tax money, $10 million. Tell us why you want to use this $10 million. When the $10 million or $8 million come into our city because of tax we pay for it, the first thing is certainly because we don't have a plan, then all the different entities won't have a raise, won't have this, won't have that. We have money now. Everybody fighting for the money. If we can have a plan, say with the money we'll go to infrastructure. For example, the school district, they want to have a bond. They will tell people they want to build the performing arts center, they want to build facility, they want to do this. They spend a lot of time trying to persuade this infrastructure need money because the school, the facility is old. It's not safe for our children. You must tell us where the money goes. All the residents willing to pitch in because they know the money will go to some place. Now we raise the tax. Where's the money goes? Major age. Where's the money goes? 2 years? We haven't seen a dime. We don't have any about our help to our homeless. Our homeless increase like no tomorrow. Any other city, San Gabriel, okay, Alhambra, okay, the Diamond Bar, Warner, they don't have a homeless issue. We have a freaking major homeless issue. We have about what? 280, 300 already? Why? Okay, we need this plan. County never give us a plan, and they plan it, we trust them, give them a 0.5% sales tax. Now we suffer. How can we just raise people tax without a plan? Just say, give me the money, we will solve our budget issue. We won't solve our budget issue. We were even in deeper debt because we spend more money. So I think the issue is, do not just think about tax. Let's bring the business. Let's build those hotels on the 10th freeway. Let's have our city staff try to work their butts off, rather than they think about the tax. So I think then the issue, we can solve the issue is bring more business, have a more service, have more revenue, have people to build, and then we can collect more money, make business friendly. Okay, that can have a service, that will have a revenue, then we can solve this fiasco.
You know, I really think it's disingenuous, Mr. Toma, to accuse people that are opposed to raising taxes of doing it for political purposes, when you, who you said came to this discussion, reluctantly, in our first session in 2014 to set goals, you voted to look at doing a sales tax increase. That was one of the goals. There was a vote on that. And you voted in the affirmative that you wanted to do it way back then. So to say that you came to this, suddenly after going through all this process, it really is disingenuous. I also think if we want to show that it's not political, there's not 4 votes to place this on the ballot, and yet you're doing a vote. Why aren't you doing one of them that you could do with 3? Why don't we hear about that? And I do agree with Mr. Wu. I'd like to know how we're going to spend it, if we're going to spend it on public safety. Because everyone complains about the PERS costs. Are we going to tell voters, you should vote for this tax increase because it's going to fund the unfunded liability of CalPERS? Are we going to say you're going to add 6 cops? What are we going to do with that money? Because to be quite honest, I sit on this council and I don't trust us with more money. That's the last thing I do. There's nothing that we've done as a council that persuades me that I want to give more money to you. And so, let's hear the whole plan. Let's do it. You want to say it's for public safety. What are you going to fund? Are you going to fund more cops? Are you going to fund salary increases? Are you going to do the unfunded liability? What are you going to do with it? But if you want to, take the political part out of it, if there's 3 votes for a tax, that's fine. Have a vote on that instead of putting up a vote that you already know is going to fail.
So, do we need a tax or not? Some say no, but they don't have a plan. Let's bring more businesses. And where's our sales tax? What has it done? Not increasing, especially to the tune of $1.6 million to $2 million a year for the last 4 years and 4 more years going into the future. I've heard Mr. Wu talk about let's build more hotels, and we've shown it, and no one's building it. They're coming, yeah, and I can keep hearing that. I've heard Sing Poli, they'll be here in 2 years, he said, 1.5 years ago. They'll be lucky to be here in 4 years if they ever come at all. And how are you going to solve the problem next year when there's another $2 million? It's not going to be from sales tax, I guarantee it. And Mr. Spence, I know you're against taxes, but I haven't heard a solution from you yet on anything. Just don't spend money is all I hear. Well, things are going up and things do cost more. To talk about cities are hurting with small businesses. That's why Huntington Park, 87.5% of the people voted in June to pass a 3/4% sales tax. Hawthorne went to a 10.25% sales tax. El Monte, which already has a utility tax, passed a 10% sales tax. Downey did. Their average incomes are below ours. And already I think there's another 13 to 16 cities that are putting on sales tax initiatives coming up in November. Yet, and it will never happen, and yet all of these others did. So it's up to the people. The people should decide. And as I said, some of this council thinks, no, they know better. They haven't shown me better. And that's what I would like to see is a sales tax.
I don't want to back and forth, but since she's saying that, I have no choice to rebuttal. It's not like I have to argue, okay? But quickly, okay? But talking about we don't have a plan. We have a plan. Okay, 5 of us plus city, okay? Let's work together, have business they're already in, help them to come in. They already talk to us, this and that. St. Paul is willing to put an escrow. We have to let them to city to hurry up to make the thing happen. 2 years, we should have the revenue. Put a solar panel or put something. Something's already there. We already have that land over there for 20 years doing nothing. Everything is ready. We cannot continue over here dragging, and continue to go into the people's pocket. And then when that money coming in, they're not going to do anything. Okay, nothing will happen. Okay, because you lack of money, just go to the resident to get more taxes. Okay, sales tax next year, utility tax next year, parcel tax. Never end. Why you compare with less desirable city? Why don't you compare with something better city? We're not less than them. I think we're much better than them. Why don't you compare with Diamond Bar, compare with Warner, compare with St. Dimas, compare with Arcadia, compare with Temple City, some surrounding city, even San Gabriel, okay, I don't think they're less than us, but now they're better than us. Even, okay, a lot of cities gradually are better than us. We cannot continue over here, okay, dragging and stepping in the same place. Move on. Let's get more business, and let's make the city is much more service, much better, much more vibrant than currently we have over here, rambling about sales tax.
Yeah. So a couple points. First thing, again, is Councilman Warshaw said the last time, the council that was here prior to 2015 was the one that got the 3 auto dealerships back into West Covina, which are the biggest sales tax generators amongst the biggest in the city. Also, Porto's agreed to come in beforehand, etc. There were a number of businesses that did that. There are all kinds of reasons. We all understand that we are in a good position on the freeway, etc. A number of developments have come in, but talking in large, big picture cliches is not actual policy. Is not actually looking at the real numbers. You have to look at the real numbers, and you can't just talk about these ideas that sound good as ideas. Look at there's lots of examples of other states. There's some states that eliminated. Kansas is a big example, eliminated their taxes, and their Chamber of Commerce almost had a revolution because people were fleeing. They were a financial disaster. The schools had to close down early because they couldn't fund them, and businesses were suffering because no one wants to be in a state or a city where you are failing financially. Businesses want stability. That's what they look for, stability. They can factor in some additional costs, but what they don't want is chaos and instability, not knowing what's going to happen. They want good roads, and they want police to protect them in case something were to happen. That is what they want. They want stability. And on just this issue of the shop local, I don't think that any of the entities that sponsor our shop local are actual retail places where you can go. Someone asked me, how do I shop local at one of our places that sponsor the, so that, I can reward them. And it's like Athens, I think the trash company, the visiting Poli schools, okay. Okay, so they want to know, how can I go there and shop so that like the money goes to West Covina? And I couldn't tell them that it's not like one of those programs. So anyway, this really comes down to looking at the actual numbers, not just talking about rhetoric and what sounds good. So again, I'll make the motion for to put a sales tax on the ballot.
What number? I want to enlighten you regarding the shop local thing. Since people ask you should say, please give $500. We give you a poster, put it in front of your retail. People, all the parents will support you. That's it. We already know the program. You don't sell it. You're just asking for maybe me or somebody to do it. Why not just tell them, say, hey, give $500 to school district, so we help the children to have after-school programs, so they stay in the school. They're not going to roaming on the street. We are spending small number of money to help the children, so we will keep them. There will be somebody in the future. Not going to in the future will cost more money for them if they have any program, go outside, pick up the wrong habit. This is something we need to invest in our society, in our community, the children, village, raise our children. We need to do this thing. Okay, why just think about it's not going to help us? It will. Just pitch in, believe in that thing. I believe in, okay, money coming in, we have people, we have our children dancing, singing in our lake, create a lot of buzz, create a lot of traffic. The downtown, our councilman Warshaw One have a lot of traffic now because a lot of children over there perform. We just have to act, not just thinking about just raise tax, because money will solve the problem. Action, okay, we have to work together. So anyway, okay, the shop local work, we need this, okay, our shop continued support.
Okay, I think that's pretty good discussion. We had a motion, do we have a second? No, we're voting on the public safety special tax measure for the November 18th ballot.
The 3/4 cent.
3/4 cent.
Number was $9 million.
$9.6 million.
That'll be at the discretion of the city council, part of their policies.
I know how I would
excuse
like
me,
to spend it.
As a
you know.
special, I'm sorry, if I could just weigh in. As as a special tax for public safety and fire protection, it would have to be placed in a separate fund, if you will, and spent only on fire protection and
Public safety.
Public safety.
It has to be spent on that, but the question is, what in that are you going to do with that $9 million? Are you going to pay the pension obligations? Are you going to hire the 6 officers that just got cut? Are you going to restore Engine 4? What are you going to do with the money? That's, I think, what I'm asking.
I know how I would like to spend it. I'd like to get our numbers back in the police department, not up to 127, but as I said, from day one up to 114. But one of the big things that we need to do, because we have a huge pension cost, and it continues to go up, and I think we need to be putting a portion of that money to not only the current pensions for police and fire, but the past, to help lower that and to help lower future PERS costs. For fire, do I want to add the engine along with a quint? No. But can we staff a little higher or bring on another ambulance? As we saw, it's not fires, it's ambulances, and maybe we bring on another ambulance. That's for this council to decide, not just me. But those are some of the ways I would like that money to be spent.
Is there any more discussion?
I just, Mr. Warshaw, when you made that list of all the people that are going out with taxes, to me, that is exactly what the problem is that it will never be enough, as Mr. Wu pointed out. It'll never be enough. There'll be, once this is done, then after a couple of years, 3 years, we'll spend up to the top of that, and we'll say, oh, man, if we only had a utility tax, if we only had this, and that's a fundamental problem. And the other thing that happens is cities never put on the ballot, hey, I want to put on the ballot a tax increase to fund all the other kinds of crap cities pay for. They always do it for public safety, or they do it for kids. They do it for stuff that people like. They don't do it for the stuff that people don't like. And, I would ask if it's really, if we have budget problems, are we going to put on a cap on that, the city council will not be able to approve an increase in pension obligations without a vote of the people? It's funny because, I always get lectured about letting the people decide on this, but there's lots of issues that this council's refused to let people vote on, including how we're governed, whether or not we should go to districts or not. The most fundamental thing, how we're governed, this council refused to put on the ballot. So, plus other things, term limits, fireworks, everything. So, to pick and choose what you're going to do, that's fine, but at least be honest about it. But, are we going to put on a cap on spending? Are we going to do these kinds of things? Are we going to put that to the people too? If we're going to let them decide, we shouldn't just jack them and say, look, you better do this or we're going to cut cops. Or, you're not going to get firemen, because that's what we're doing. And so I'd like to hear more about the people that say they have a plan. I still haven't heard it yet. I heard a partial plan from Warshaw. I haven't heard what the $9 million is going to be spent on, except public safety.
Okay, if there's no other further discussion, I had a motion. Do we get a second on the motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a first.
Mr. Mayor, okay, now we say, so it's a 3 vote or 4-3?
It takes 4.
I'm kind of so confused
with you. It takes 4 to okay it.
This will take 4 votes.
4? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's have a roll call.
Spence?
No.
Toma?
Aye.
Warshaw?
Aye.
Wu?
Nope.
Johnson?
Aye, it fails 3-2. I mean, it fails 3-2. All right. Okay, we shall move on now to item number 8. Okay, item number 8 is what?
So we're going to put a different tax on now at the last minute?
Yeah. So, what's that? Well, I think that in which case I would like to see a plan come back for what it would look like on one of these other measures, actually a specific other measure, which is the parcel tax. And I would like to see that come back with respect to numbers for what it would take and how much money it would generate for a 2 or 3 cent parcel tax for public safety per square foot. I'm sorry. Yeah, per square foot.
And how many votes does that take?
It takes 3 votes to put that type of measure on the ballot. So if you gave us direction, we would call it, sorry? Yes.
Right.
Yeah, I'm sorry, yes, that's correct. 3 votes of the council to put it on the ballot, it would require 2/3 vote of the voters. But we would need direction, and then we would also need to schedule a special meeting to get that on the August 10th ballot, on the deadline.
And in that case, we need to have a plan, okay? C3 vote, you want the parcel tax, and generate how much money, and how to, okay, utilize that money you're going to raise, pay for the police pension or this, or firefighter pension or something. We need to at least have a plan if you want to raise this parcel tax to the homeowner or property owner, okay, so we will understand, we know we want to support this or not. So you have to tell us, okay, what the plan is, okay, and how much money will generate, okay, otherwise, again, you keep the blank check, everything's disappear.
You know, to me, what Mayor Pro Tem who said, it does, we have to. If we're going to bring this back, we need to have a detailed plan. I don't want the residents sitting out there guessing what it's going to go for. You know, if we're going to put something on the ballot for the residents to decide, they have to know exactly where every dime is going to be spent. There won't be any dime that's wasted. It has to be in the special fund, whatever it's for, and that's the only thing it can be spent for. If they decide no, they don't want to do it after that, so be it. But I think if we're going to move forward with any type of special tax that can be put on something like that, it has to be down to every detail, where every dime is going. So I would, if Councilman Thomas made a motion on to bring that back, I will second that motion to bring it back with that, if the details, like Mayor Pro Tem said. Yes, go ahead.
I'm just going to be brutally honest with you. We will present some ideas for you for next week. We saw how much difficulty it was to adopt a budget, but to say what we're going to plan to use $9.5 million between now and next week indefinitely, that's going to be almost impossible for staff to put together something that you all can be satisfied with.
I understand that, but I think what we're saying is that this is going to be on public safety only. Correct. It's going to be fire and police only. There's going to be a percentage of it for maybe hiring new fire officers, new police officers. You're going to be help paying the PERS down, so paying this and that. You know, it's going to be detailed out. If it's not detailed out, then the residents aren't going to buy it in the first place.
Well, I think that you just saw one example of what Mr. Warshaw said that he'd like to spend on. But again, he mentioned ambulances. There may have been talk about the Reed State Engine 4. So there is a wide variety of programs you could offer.
Chris, you can do it, okay? Okay, you can do it. Make a plan, okay? So don't try dancing around the number. Just make a plan. Tell us possible this, pay the pension, hire more police. There's a public safety tax. So why is public safety so restricted? Make a plan and bring back.
All right.
And then we can kind of look at it and decide one way or the other on it. Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Let's have a roll call.
Spence? Toma?
Aye.
Warshaw?
Aye.
Wu?
Nope.
Johnson?
Aye. Passes 3-2. Okay, that will be brought back. Okay, now, yes. Yes, let's do that. We'll call a special meeting for it.
I beg your pardon?
So because this has to be done before August 10th, I think it is.
Yes, sir.
We're going to need a special meeting for this to come back.
That's correct.
So I would like that to come back next week. And just some of the things that I would like to see is how much, if it was a square footage tax, what would 1 cent be, 2 cents be, 3 cents. I don't think it would need to be more than 3 cents per square foot. And I would like an idea from our police chief and our fire chief of some of the ways they see spending that money, as well as from from our city manager and finance as far as PERS costs and medical costs.
I would also like to have it detailed, like if it's 1 cent to whatever, what it's going to cost, let's say if a property owner, the property dwelling is say 6,600 square feet, what would be the total cost on them per year? If this would go on something like that. It's just give the figures out there so they can.
Lot sizes.
Yeah, they can understand exactly what it'd be cost for them. Okay, since that, we're moving forward on that, I would like to make a motion that we hold off item number 8 until the next meeting. Do we have a sense on that? Is that okay? For the argument?
Rather not, just I think it's going to be really busy, crazy.
No, that's all right.
Yeah, I just don't want to.
It's a special meeting.
I just know from past experience with the city when they, had the argument out ahead of time, somebody that was opposing it wrote an argument that used, kind of countered it already to start out with. So I'd prefer that we just put it off till then. So I'm fine with that. Put it off, it's perfect.
Do we have a consensus to bring number 8 back?
Yeah.
No?
Oh, come on.
What do you want?
What's number 8?
It's the argument in favor of the ballot measure.
Treasurer and.
I said no last time.
No, but do you want to see it now?
Do you want to hear it now, or do you want to bring it back till the next meeting?
One or the other.
Want to hear now?
Okay?
I don't want to hear it now.
Okay. I guess we hear it now?
Let's get over with.
Well, no, you can make all the changes you want and bring it back again, right?
I still have a full-time job.
Yeah, you can bring up all the changes. Well, that actually is a very interesting question, since there's people that oppose it up here, how that works with, as far as approval or how that works.
Then the council will choose what to say and who will sign on. Since if there's opposition by anyone to, or they don't want to sign it.
How does that work as far as the approval stuff then?
They still get to vote on the argument.
Okay. And have we asked for numbers yet, or letters? We haven't been assigned letters, right?
We have not, but if there's a request to do so, we can add that to the request to the county. Mr. Mayor, if we can go back to the last time for a quick second. With the timeline, it might be appropriate to assign a council member or 2 to write the argument in favor of the measure. That's what's going to move forward next week, so that that's prepared as well.
For the parcel.
For the partial tax item.
I'm not going to do it.
We're talking about the partial tax. I'm sorry.
Should we find something
I will do it. I will do it.
We need to add that to the next week too.
I will do it.
I'm sorry.
I will do it.
I was thinking about.
I take it back. I'll do it. I will do it.
Yeah. If on
Okay,
both-
we have Councilman Toma and Councilman Warshaw. We'll do it.
Okay, and I just wanted to remind everyone of the dates. The arguments in favor of measures, including the item 8, are due on the 17th of August. Rebuttals are due August 27th.
The arguments in favor are due on the 17th?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry? Well, arguments and for and against, and then rebuttals are due.
Actually, have we scheduled that?
We haven't decided yet, so we want to do another special meeting next Thursday. Are we set?
Too many
meetings.
Way too many.
Well, you
Mr.
have to
Tubman,
do-
there's a group of us in Sacramento next Wednesday with Department of Finance. It's up to, yes.
It's Tuesday's national.
It's a good thing we canceled the.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a good thing. Are we good?
I'd like the 9th.
Well, what day is not?
Thursday.
Thursday again? Next Thursday?
Next Thursday.
What time? Let me check my schedule. What time?
Well, we won't need a closed session on that, will we? Or will we?
I don't believe so, no.
So we're just going to make
Special meetings are typically held at 6:30. We did 7 tonight because of the closed session before.
We'll do 6:30 and get out of here. Should we get out of it a little earlier?
6:30?
6:30 sounds good to me.
Okay, 6:30 on the 9th, which is next Thursday in this room.
And then cap for 2 hours the maximum. kept the time.
less.
Kept the time.
Talk a lot less.
So we could restrict it, okay, one time, rebuttal.
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be a great idea.
That's a good idea.
Okay, now, okay, we've taken that one now, correct. Now we're moving on to item 8.
Okay, so we are going to start talking about the measure, because if so, we'll put it up on the screen for the public as well.
Yes, we had a majority.
Which one do you want to do first, city clerk or treasurer?
I don't care, whichever one. Put one up.
All right, go put the treasurer up.
Mr. Mayor, while she's...
When do we see the ballot title summary and stuff on this, on these things?
The impartial analysis is the same day, August 17th.
That's when it's submitted, we don't get to see it ahead of time, or?
Well, no, the language you already have that goes on the ballot, it was part of the measure. It was part of what you approved.
Yeah, but the analysis part of it.
That's due on the 17th.
Okay.
I just wanted to remind everyone while she's doing that with the special meeting next Thursday, that means the agenda will be posted on Wednesday so that the public understands and expects that.
All right, Mr. Spence. Would you like me to
Chris,
read it out
can
loud?
you read that so that, because I think it's hard to read for the
Certainly.
public.
Vote yes on measure, question mark, we haven't signed a letter yet. When West Covina incorporated in 1923, the elected city treasurer served an important purpose. As city finances became more complicated, cities recognized that a politician whose only requirement was to be an 18-year-old registered voter wasn't enough. The actual treasurer's responsibilities were delegated to professional staff. 75% of all Californian cities no longer elect their treasurer. Instead, they recognize the need for a qualified professional treasurer. A yes vote on measure saves taxpayers money. The city spends tens of thousands of dollars to hold an election for city treasurer every 4 years. Money better spent on essential public services rather than paying for a politician with very little responsibility. A yes vote on measure, question mark, limits West Covina's taxpayers' liability. Last year, the city spent more than $13,000 investigating complaints filed against the current treasurer, a position that no longer has the authority it did in the 1920s. Every citizen can get the same information the elected treasurer has. Cities that had an elected treasurer like San Bernardino still face bankruptcy. Vote yes on measure, question mark. Save taxpayers money, limit the city's liabilities, and recognize that dedicated financial professionals have already replaced a completely unnecessary elected politician.
Any questions about it? Any changes? Anybody like it? Okay. Do we have to make a motion on that?
There's a motion to approve, and then who will be signing?
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve it. Then we get a second.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is that roll call?
Spence? Toma?
Abstain.
Warshaw? Wu?
Nope.
Johnson?
Aye. Passes 3-1-1. Now the next one is the city clerk.
If we could, for this particular argument, the council members, any one of them can sign it? You're allowed to have 5 signers?
Right.
So it sounds like there are at least 3 of you, and then there will be 2 other signers.
There can be up to 2. I mean,
up to 2 more, yeah.
Do we have to decide that now, or can we go around and ask people? Or can we be delegated to go around and ask people individually?
I would suggest delegating it to one council member to obtain the other 2 to sign it.
Well, we don't have to have 2, but.
You don't, yeah, right.
But we
That's
can,
correct.
how do we talk, I guess, how do we talk about who would be good to sign, all that kind of stuff, right? I mean, I'm fine going around and asking some people and see if I could think of different designations that would be helpful. if that's okay. No, yes, I'm stuck already, volunteer for it. Okay. Now, on the rebuttal argument, how do we do that? Because we don't have a meeting before the rebuttal's due.
The rebuttal is due the 27th?
Yes, that's correct.
Yes, so we
No, but
will
after
have
the 17th.
No, the rebuttal's not until the 27th.
Right, but we won't get the copy of the argument till the 17th. If there's an opposing argument put in. I guess we'll have to have one if you guys put one on.
We will notify council if a rebuttal comes in.
No, if there's a parcel tax, you'll have to do it, so.
The next regular meeting would be August 21st, so the arguments will have been received by
But also the
then.
parcel tax, if that goes, would be there too. Okay, thank you.
So are you going to delegate the rebuttal to Mr. Spencer?
Yeah, we'll figure that out.
Thank you.
Now we're going to do the city clerk. Is that it? If you'd,
Oh, yes, you did. All right, this is regarding the city clerk position. Vote yes on measure, question mark. When West Covina first incorporated in 1923, elected city clerks performed important functions. As cities grew, the responsibility grew and have become more complex. The clerk is responsible for compliance to laws, including the Brown Act, various municipal ordinances, and campaign finance regulations. Most California cities have transitioned to a professional staff with unique expertise and qualifications to fulfill the clerk's duties. Watch any city council meeting and you will see the deputy city clerk effectively and efficiently performing those functions today. Measure question mark recognizes these changes. It eliminates an unnecessary politician. It recognizes that those responsibilities have already been transferred to highly qualified professional staff. Professional staff, I assume that can be held accountable.
Yeah.
For what they do or don't do. That is why almost 75% of California cities no longer have an elected city clerk. They appoint qualified staff through a competitive employment process. Elected city clerks only have to be 18 and registered to vote. Professional staff are well educated and experienced. Vote yes on measure question mark and you will save tens of thousands of dollars to conduct the city clerk election. This is money that can be used to provide better services for you. The current elected city clerk supports measure question mark. He recognized that the position has changed since the 1920s. Vote yes on measure question mark. Save taxpayer money and bring West Covina into the modern age. Vote yes.
okay, do we have any questions on it?
You made that one change, right? Professional staff. Yeah, there's another one that didn't sound right, grammatical one too. But okay. Where was it? It's a sentence, I gotta change the sentence.
Professional staff can be accountable?
Well, it can be accountable. Yeah, it can be held accountable, can be held accountable, but the measure the money, save tens of thousands of dollars to conduct the city clerk election, that one. Right, measure blank, vote for, you vote yes on, and you will save tens of thousands in taxpayer dollars, right? That's currently used to conduct the city clerk election or something. That sentence I gotta change. What if it just said measure question mark and vote yes on measure question mark and you will save tens of thousands of dollars currently used to conduct the city clerk election? As it will save? Vote yes on measure blank and vote yes on measure blank as it will save. Okay. Okay, you want to sign this, Herb? As it will save tens of thousands of dollars, right? And then that's used, or that tens of thousands of dollars currently used, yeah. Yeah, currently used to conduct the city clerk election. This is money that can be used to provide better services for you. Okay, yeah. Did you get that? Someone get that?
So I
my
have
pen
the-
stopped writing. My pen stopped writing.
Sure, professional staff, that is the other change, but then
Yeah,
the other one, vote yes on measure, question mark, as it will save
$10,000 currently used to conduct the city clerk election. This is money that can be used to provide better services for you.
Right. So let's go back to that, because I heard a couple different versions. Professional staff can be held accountable? Or
Yeah,
is?
that can be. Is? Is it? Is it? Is it? Is held accountable? Okay. Okay, yeah, okay, is. I'm a cynic, so, okay, professional staff is.
I just don't know how many numbers. I'm sure hoping.
Did you hear
If I
that?
can have Ms. Bresciani do a word count on both these, just make sure.
I think they're all below 300.
Okay.
I think they're all below 300 when I did it.
Just measure something as one.
Well, yeah, it wasn't even close. I could go on and on and on, but I figured that's what Tony would do.
He said again, I'm going to do it again.
Rebuttal. Yeah, exactly, rebuttal, yeah. Yeah, because they were below 300. They're easily below 300.
235.
Yeah, see, not even close. 300.
All right, so on that one, is that the verbiage everybody wants? We need a motion and...
Yeah, and obviously, I'm going to talk to Nick. I'd like Nick to sign it, so I'll talk to Nick, and if you could just sign and do this kind of stuff.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to accept the changes.
Second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Any further discussion? If not, we have a roll call.
Spence?
Aye.
Toma?
Abstain.
Warshaw?
Aye.
Wu?
Nope.
Johnson?
Aye. Passes 3-1-1. Do we have any council want to make any
I'm
final
sorry.
statements?
I apologize.
I'm sorry.
I just want to make sure that we're going to be also designating Mr. Spence to write any rebuttal.
You said the same stuff.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, sign this.
Any further comments from the council? If not, I'll make a motion to adjourn. Oh, I'm sorry. City manager.
Thank you. I want to make one last announcement, and that is we still have Ms. Byrie up in the audience on the very top. This is her last city council meeting. Laura Byrie, our deputy city manager, has accepted a new position with the city of Beverly Hills. Yeah. So we want to congratulate her and thank you. If it wasn't for her,
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you, Laura. I'm convinced if it wasn't for her, we would not have the social media presence that we do today.
Oh, yeah.
Among other things. So we thank you very much.
Thank you. Yep.
We're done? We're done.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
What is this?
What is that?